7 members present, we do have a quorum. I would like to ask committee member Mr. Hatfield to now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to ask committee member Mr. Daniel Ball to now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
The next agenda item is the approval of our past meeting minutes. The minutes are located in the front pocket of your notebook, and you should have received a copy of these minutes via email to review them in advance of the meeting today. Are there any corrections, or is there a motion to approve the minutes of the January 30th, 31st, 2017 FBA Advisory Committee meeting as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Wright,
Second.
and the second is
Archer.
Mr. Archer. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Madam Chair,
Please.
I would like to abstain as I was not at the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hatfield. So there are 6 yeas, 1 abstention, no nays. In your binder, the page behind the table of contents, you will find a list of organizations with more than 1 application for funding in different grant programs in this cycle. There is not a restriction on organizations receiving more than 1 type of FBA grant in the same cycle. For instance, receiving a general assistance grant and a veteran's mental health grant at the same time is permissible. However, they should be different and distinct projects, and financial qualifications for the total amounts requested are a consideration. For our convenience, the FBA staff has color-coded each grant category so you can tell if that grant is above the line on the roll-ups. Mr. Cato will now discuss the color coding.
Did everybody find the multiples list right behind the table of contents? Okay, over in the 4th column, you'll see where it identifies the different grant categories. You can see it is either color-coded light green or orange. If it's green, that means that on the current roll-ups that we have, it was above the line. It could possibly get funded if you guys stick with the way your roll-ups are. If it was red, that means it fell below the line. So you can kind of go through the organizations there and see who has multiples. If they're green, red, both green, both red, 3 the different colors. What I do want to point out to you is on the 3rd page, there are the three top organizations on the 3rd page: Salvation Army Amarillo, Salvation Army Grayson County, and Texas National Guard Family Support Foundation. Those organizations, those 3 organizations have multiples that are green, and they also have significant red flag issues that you may want to take a look at. And that, I just point that out because you all decided you wanted to talk about the multiple grants issues beforehand. So with that, I'll pass it back to the chair.
Do I have any discussion with respect to the applicant multiples list before we begin discussing each grant program? Okay, so then we'll move on to agenda number 4. This brings us to the agenda item number 4, discussion and action on recommendations to the Commission for the 2017-2018 General Assistance Grant. Before we begin discussion of the recommendations, I'd like to review with the committee members and for the public the grant review and approval process. For the 2016 grant cycle, General Assistance Grants were funded twice. GA 16A, or Alpha, began on January 1, 2016, and GA 16B, or Bravo, that began on July the 1st, 2016. The Commission approved moving to a single grant cycle with all grant programs aligned in June of 2015. The 2017-2018 applications we have begun reviewing and will recommend today will be the first group all in a single cycle. Today's committee recommendation will be presented to the Texas Veterans Commission at its quarterly meeting on Wednesday, May the 3rd, 2017. The Commission will review the advisory committee's recommendations, make the final decisions on awarding the 2017-2018 General Assistance Grants. The awarded grants will begin July 1st, 2017 and end on June 30th, 2018, a period of 1 year. The request for applications indicated we anticipated $9 million available for this round of General Assistance Grants. The 2017-2018 General Assistance Request for Applications, RFA, was posted to the Texas Veterans Commission website on August 29, 2016. The FVA staff hosted an informational webinar on September 29, 2016 for potential applicants and then placed a recording of the webinar on the FVA website for an on-demand access by all potential applicants. Applications were due October 27, 2016. 87 general assistance applications were received, requesting over $17 million. 74 applications were deemed eligible for evaluation. Each eligible application was then reviewed by 3 different staff members using the evaluation rubric that was also posted on the TVC website with application materials. Advisory committee members were provided with an evaluated application materials in mid-January 2017 in order to prepare for the application presentation meeting held on January 30th and 31st, 2017, where 48 applicants presented their projects to our committee. Committee members' individual funding recommendations were submitted to the FVA staff by 20 March 2017. These recommendations have been rolled up and compiled and provided today in several formats to aid our discussion. As we begin our funding recommendation discussion, I would like to reiterate the Texas Veterans Commission guidance to our advisory committee with respect to the General Assistance Grants. This guidance includes 1. Developing recommendations that will ensure widespread distribution of grants across the state. 2. Giving priority funding to the service categories of financial assistance and supportive services. 3. Developing recommendations that encourage diversity of services provided within the geographical regions. 4. Giving priority to funding outstanding rated grant applications. Number 5. And fully funding applications whenever possible. I would like now to ask if there is any committee member who has a conflict with any of the applicants being considered for funding. Per the Commission's conflict of interest policy, we have all signed an acknowledgement. If you have a conflict with an applicant being considered for general assistance funding, you must recuse yourself from the entire discussion and recommendation process. At this point, I would like to ask Mr. Cato, Director of the Fund for Veterans Assistance, to discuss a few housekeeping items and review the documents we have been provided.
Thank you, Chairman Reyna. First of all, I'd like to thank the committee and the FVA staff for their tireless work and assistance in all aspects of this grant application process. This meeting is the culmination of countless hours of reading, considering, scoring, and ranking all the worthy projects to help veterans and their families across our state of Texas. All totaled, there were over 188 applications this cycle. Each received meticulous attention by everyone who read them. So now we're going to go through the book here that we provided so you can see what is there and have a chance to discuss or talk about asking questions. You have the table of contents on the front, which will help you as we go through the different programs. I will go through tab numbers right now, one at a time. At the first tab, labeled number 1, you'll find the information about the 2017-2018 General Assistance applications for your consideration and discussion. In order behind that, tab number 2, or tab 1 is the roll-up, tab number 2 is the expanded roll-up. We'll go through each one of these. Tab number 3 is the analysis charts. Tab number 4 is the list of red flags. And then tab number 5 is an all eligibles list. And the difference there is if there's a grant program that didn't get any votes in the individual tallies, they may not show up on the roll-up, so we put them on that all eligibles. That's why that is there. Okay? So tab number 1 is what we call the roll-up summary. It is a condensed one-page version, and in this case, because we've got so many now, it's 2-page, of the expanded roll-up. In the roll-up summary, the applicants are sorted by the number of committee members that recommended each applicant for funding, starting with the most votes received to least votes. So you'll notice there down the left-hand side, you have programs that had 9 members who said they wanted to fund it, then 8, then 7, then 6. And turn the page, it goes over 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? Within each of those subgroups, the applicants are then sorted in alphabetical order. The roll-up summary notes the amount of funding that the applicant requested and the amount of committee members recommended. Also included is information such as their project title, the service category, their service areas, and the number of clients to be served by the project. Please note that the organizations in italics are ones that have applications in multiple grant categories, just like we discussed earlier. So tab number 2. Tab number 2 is the expanded roll-up. It contains all the same information on the condensed roll-up, but it has the addition of each individual member's rank order, and you can see if there's a highlighted blue in the recommended amount of funding if one of the committee members chose to recommend a lesser amount of funding. Tab number 3. These are the analysis charts that graphically depict the applications and the roll-up by commission priority. The roll-up section of the charts reflect the projects receiving 6 or more recommendations for funding. The total funding for projects with 6 or more individual recommendations was $9.82 million. So basically what that means is that there's $9 million available. The roll-up includes an additional $800,000 because that's where the cutoff was. As you look at these charts, and just briefly go over them, each page of the pie charts is a grant priority from the commission. So you can read that commission priority at the top. So this first page would be commission priority, ensure widespread distribution of grants across the state. The top block is applications, eligible applications as we got them. So there's no culling out of this other than the ineligibles, and you can see upper left is the number of applications, upper right is the dollar value of applications. And you can see there were 74 eligibles and 15.47 million requested of the eligibles. Now going the second block down on the left side, this is what is in your roll-up. So you can see by going straight down from the number of applications, how many applications you got and then how many are in the roll-up on the lower left. And then on the lower right, you've got the dollar value that is in the roll-up. Page 2 is the same format for the service categories of financial assistance and supportive services. Page 3 is the diversity. So those numbers on there indicate the number of service categories in the different regions for applications, again, at the top, and the roll-up at the bottom. Page 4 is the commission priority for funding their outstanding rated grant applications. Page 5 is a little bit different in that it's not the pie charts. What page 5 does is it shows you in the same order applications at the top with the number of applications on the left and the dollar value on the right. And then at the bottom, it's color-coded. You've got the roll-up number of applications to the roll-up dollar value. And what that allows you to do is you can look from top to bottom and see where things fell out, or in the roll-up, what things got eliminated. Okay? So that is tab number 3. Tab number 4 is the red flag list. It contains the organization's name along with the amount requested, the service category, the service regions, and any issues with the application along with a possible corrective action should the organization be recommended and selected for funding. I want to emphasize that these documents are meant to serve as a discussion aid as you develop your funding recommendations as a committee. As you discuss and vote on the grant recommendations, please remember that this meeting is for the benefit of the public. And to help our guests hear and understand the proceedings, there are a couple of housekeeping items. Please speak into the microphone so that members of the public are able to hear your discussion clearly. Please try to avoid side conversations at the table so everyone can hear the primary speaker. When voting, please raise your hand and leave your hand up until the staff has recorded all the votes before we proceed to the next item. We have staff tracking both the order of recommendations and the committee members' votes for the record. Remember, all discussions must be completed before a vote is made. We also have staff logging recommended amounts as you go to keep a running total. We've got folks on the side over here that are going to keep the total for you and on the laptop, and it'll be displayed, entering that amount there, and so you'll know at any point as we go through how much money is remaining in that grant category. Additionally, if you haven't done so already, please silence your cell phones. Also, as a general reminder, discussion regarding grants should be limited to this room. Staff members and committee members are not in a position to discuss any of the grant recommendations with the public. This is your meeting. Finally, we have something new this meeting. We are recording the meeting because there's a lot of interest across the state, and we will post this on our YouTube page hopefully either this afternoon or tomorrow, so that those who were unable to attend will be able to view the meeting as it goes. Hopefully in the future we'll be able to live stream, but we're still working on that piece. So with that, I will turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Cato. I would also like for the record that Mr. Robert Cervantes has, committee member has come. Welcome, Robert. So now we have 8 members present, and we still have the I also would want to reiterate that all discussions by the committee members regarding the grant applications are limited to this room. As Mr. Cato mentioned, all application information and materials remain confidential until the Texas Veterans Commission makes awards at their May 3rd meeting. FVA staff will collect any applications from you at the end of the meeting. Okay, so now, will any of the committee members think it would be helpful if we take a short break to give you a chance to review the information provided in your books before we get down to the business of discussing recommendations? So what I mean by that is if you want to take a short break and ask Mr. Cato anything specific on what you've reviewed. So, and just waiting on Mr. Cervantes, you're okay. All right, then now let us begin with the 2017-2018 General Assistance Grant discussion and recommendations. I would suggest that the committee consider reviewing organizations by the number of recommendations received. For instance, the committee would discuss, and then, if it's the committee's wish, vote to approve all organizations that received 8 recommendations as one motion. In the interest of time, I would suggest that we do not vote on each organization separately. Are there any comments, thoughts, or discussion, gentlemen? Mr. Hatfield.
Madam Chair, earlier you were discussing the part about the recommendations that were below the amount that they originally requested. And I was thinking that we were trying to always give them the amount that they requested, or not give it. Did I misunderstand something there? In other words, if somebody had a $300,000 grant, was it okay to say you recommended $150,000? See, I thought we were trying to stay away from that.
You're correct, we are trying to stay away from that. The below the line comment, is that what you're asking about?
Yeah.
Okay, you want to tell me that one now? Below the line. Real quick, if you're on tab number 1, the condensed roll-up for general assistance. If you sum all of the recommended amounts for those organizations receiving 9, 8, 7, and 6 votes, that comes to $9.82 million. So above 6 votes was what I considered above the line. But that 9.8 is still well over the 9, which is where you'll have to have your conversations. Does that make sense now?
Yes.
Okay.
So with that said, is there a motion to recommend the funding of Bring Everyone in the Zone for the amount of $75,000?
I move.
Mr. Hatfield?
I'll second.
Motion, Mr. Ball, second. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 8 yeas. Any opposed? 0 opposed. Motion passes with 8 yeas. Okay, at this time, all right, at this time, is there a motion to recommending the funding for the organizations that have 8 votes?
So moved. Or I'll move to
And
approve all of them.
let me, go ahead,
Approve all, a motion to approve all grants with 8 votes.
okay, and that's Alamo Area Council of Governments, Catholic Charities Fort Worth, Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston, Centerpoint, City of Fort Worth, Communities and Schools of Greater Central Texas, Incorporated, Goodwill Industries of Central Texas, Hale County Meals on Wheels, Harris County, Lubbock Regional MHMR Center doing business as Star Care Specialty Health System, San Antonio Metropolitan Ministry Incorporated, United Way of Tarrant County, YWCA El Paso del Norte region.
And Chairwoman, I believe in the City of Fort Worth.
Okay, City of Fort Worth, thank you.
I second the motion.
All right, so the motion was by Mr. Wright, second by Mr. Jeffries. And that recommended amount? Is there any additional discussion?
Yeah, I think, Madam Chairman, Mr. Paul, I wouldn't vote for that right now because I haven't gone through all of it. I think we went a little fast. Not that I wouldn't vote, but can you give us a little bit more time? As this is the first time we're looking at it to get all through all the 8s, because you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 different charities just to bounce off whether our own priorities are there or not, and if they're not, why not? If 8 out of 9 voted, I'm sure they're pretty good, but I'd just like a few minutes to take a look at it.
Okay.
I was just going to say you covered the regional thing.
Just go ahead and use the mic.
No, it's just-
Okay, and just for the committee's edification on the recommended on number line 8, that would be 2.7 right there, 2.7 million. Okay, are you good for number 8 now, Mr. Ball?
Yes, Madam Chairman.
All right. So, is there any additional discussion on line 8? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
We have 8 yeas. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes with 8 yeas and 0 nays. All right, so for the record, Alamo Area Council of Governments, recommended funded amount is $300,000. Catholic Charities Fort Worth is $75,000 recommended funded amount. Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston is $300,000. Center Point is $250,000. City of Fort Worth is $300,000. Communities and Schools of Greater Central Texas Incorporated, $300,000. Goodwill's Industries of Central Texas is $75,000. Hale County Meals on Wheels Incorporated, $50,000. Harris County, $300,000. Lubbock Regional MHMR City Center, doing business as Star Care Specialty Health System, $300,000. San Antonio Metropolitan Ministry Incorporated, $300,000. United Way of Tarrant County, $75,000. YWCA El Paso del Norte Region, $75,000. All right. Is there a motion now for the recommended funding of line 7, which are the following charities? Caritas of Waco, $200,000. Catholic Charities of Central Texas, $300,000. CLC Incorporated, $300,000. County of Burnett, $50,000. Department of Texas Veterans of Foreign Wars Foundation, $500,000. Family Elder Care, $150,000. Fort Bend County, $150,000. Fort Bend Seniors Meals on Wheels, and much, much more, $200,000. Goodwill Industries of South Texas Incorporated, $200,000. Interfaith Ministries for the Greater Houston, $100,000. Legal Aid of Northwest Texas, $150,000. Metroplex Military Charitable Trust, $100,000. Nueces County, $150,000. Project Mend, $250,000. Salvation Army, San Antonio, Texas, $300,000. Southwest Area Regional Transit District, $200,000. Texas National Guard Family Support Foundation, $500,000.
Madam Chairwoman, before
Yes.
we make a motion, I would like to motion to exclude the Texas National Guard Family Support Foundation. And the logic behind it is that as we are reimbursement grants and their total income is only $375,000, I believe is correct, they do not have the incoming funds to support that grant.
Is there any additional discussion from the members on excluding Texas National Guard Family Support Foundation of $500,000? Yes, Mr. Hatfield.
Was that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second for him.
Is there a second on that? Mr. Hatfield? Mr. Wright made the motion, all right. Any additional discussion on this?
Yeah,
Yes, Mr. Jeffries.
This is Mr. Jeffries. I'd like to, I had wanted to discuss that. I don't know that I would agree to completely exclude them because I think that is a necessary statewide program, but we do have to pull out $800,000 from this someplace. Since they are financial assistance, it's easier for them to give a lesser amount. But I think that having some funds available for our National Guardsmen is important. So maybe rather than exclude them completely, because we're going to have to cut down something else anyways. But they are one of the 2 or 3 statewide organizations. Maybe we just offer them a lesser amount.
Well, and if I can follow up to that point,
If you state your name and talk into the microphone, please, Mr. Wright.
this is Mr. Wright. They have requested multiple grants totaling $900,000 with an income of $375,000, and again, being these reimbursement grants. I'm not at all opposed to amending that motion to a smaller amount. I'm just trying to keep that in mind across the board. They only have so much, and this is absolutely not a statement of the quality of their work. I was one of those who voted for them before I didn't do my due diligence and realized where they were. I didn't catch that, which 7 of us did, but that's okay. That's why we're here.
Mr. Hatfield.
Mr. Hatfield, I would agree with that, and I had difficulties with this is one of those multiple grants. And so what I did with my own thinking on the multiple grants, I decided I probably wouldn't go over 700,000. And so even though I may have voted for one, I may have left it out. And I would be in agreement to maybe lower the amount.
Mr. Ball.
Madam Chairman, all these conversations are very, very valid. I tell you to go back to the multiples, and you can see that the Texas National Guard Family Support did have 3. All 3 of them were above the line. I'd also add that if you go to the number 6, the very first one on the number 6 line is also a National Guard one, which is approved by at least 6 of the 9 members. So to counter one of 2 that provide National Guard support, yes, the other one is also approved, and the Texas National Guard one has 3 in, all 3 are above the line. So taking 1 out, they still have 2 above the line of 400,000. So I think they're still well funded.
Mr. Jeffries.
I don't disagree that they're not well funded, but I think that probably one of the priorities from the commissioners is that we give financial assistance. So I think that we may want to discuss later about adjusting one of those others, especially since they're one of the high-risk grants. But in this case, I think that giving them some flexibility to support National Guardsmen with financial assistance is of value. That was my reason for wanting a lesser amount, but not completely excluded. Because I think they can't, as I understand it, if they get money, say, for a house repair, then they can't use that money for general financial assistance.
At this point, I'd like to ask Mr. Cato to review the financials on this organization so that if we either decide to exclude or set a different amount, that the committee is well aware and well briefed. Yes, Mr. Hatfield.
I may be mistaken. The motion was to exclude it for the voting for this time, and that part was seconded. And so what I assumed was that we might vote on the others and then go back and talk about this one. Because then we'd have a chance to adjust him out at that point, if that's what we want to do, so forth.
Okay, so the motion out there by Mr. Wright was to exclude the Texas National Guard Family Support Foundation at this point, and then it was seconded by Mr. Hatfield. And we've had additional discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are you unsure about the motion there, Mr. Wright?
Yes, this is
You
Mr.
want to
Wright again.
amend your motion?
It's exactly what I would like to do, is to amend that to a figure of 100,000. Mainly because their total budget, I believe, is 375. I've had time to pull it up. So that takes them within the range that they would be able to afford to do reimbursements. But I agree with Mr. Jeffries completely. I was not thinking about the importance of financial assistance, and especially statewide, doing that statewide. Unless, and I'll take this point up for discussion, we want to focus on them doing financial assistance and make their grant request in line with their income, and then we'll discuss the other two as we go forward. That becomes kind of an obvious that they don't have the funding to do reimbursements. So, to Mr. Jeffries, your thoughts?
I think it's more than appropriate to discuss them in the other columns too.
Okay, but point of order, first, he's put in an amended motion out there for restated.
I would like to move to adjust the total from 500,000 down. But unfortunately, I don't have a figure in mind. Sorry for the confusion, by the way.
All right, is there a second on this? No second? Right. So then what we'll do is, then we need to decide on number 7 here. Do we want to then maybe discuss or move for all of them and then exclude the Texas National Guard Family Foundation and address them separately?
So I move that we vote on the entire tranche that has already gotten 7 votes, excluding the Texas National Guard Family Support Foundation. That we just vote on the other, whatever that is, 12 or 13.
Is there a second?
Madam Chairman, this is Mr. Ball, but I would second that, but I got one question. If we take out Texas National Guard Family Support Foundation, and we total up all the rest of the 7 votes, where does that bring us to for our total 9 million?
One moment.
Is that 3.3 million include 500?
No. So 3.3 is without Texas National Guard. With that total number, the recommended would be 6.
And small change.
Yes.
6 and change.
Okay, so it would be 3.3 million without the Texas National Guard Family Support Foundation, which then would leave
To almost 3 million.
almost 3 million left to award.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chairman, I'll second Mr. Jeffries' motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I make a friendly amendment that we add 2?
No, we need to vote on this motion, sir. We've gone around way too much. We need to vote on this motion. But I'll hear what you have to say, sir.
Oh, okay. All I was suggesting is that we vote on these and then we go back and discuss it. Make sure we don't leave it out.
That is
That is the
Concur.
motion.
That is the motion.
And did we need a second?
Mr. Ball,
Sorry.
okay.
We're ready to vote.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we have 8 yeas, any opposed? All right, the motion passes. So the following organizations, Caritas of Waco, 200,000, Catholic Charities of Central Texas, 300,000, CLC, 300,000, County of Burnett, 50,000, Department of Texas, Veterans Foreign Affairs Foundation, 500,000, Family Elder Care, $150,000. Fort Bend County, $150,000. Fort Bend Seniors Meals on Wheels and much, much more, $200,000. Goodwill Industries of South Texas Incorporated, $200,000. Interfaith Ministries for Greater Houston, $100,000. Legal Aid of Northwest Texas, $150,000. Metroplex Military Charitable Trust, $100,000. Nueces County, $150,000. Project Bend, $250,000. Salvation Army San Antonio, $300,000. Southwest Area Regional Transit District, $200,000, for a total given away $6,075,000. Now, what I would like to do now to bring up to the committee is, before we vote on line 6, let's talk about the Texas Family Support Foundation. Is there any discussion on that or motion? Yes, Mr. Wright.
Mr. Wright, a question. Can we total tranche 6 so we can figure out what we need money-wise, where we're going to money-wise?
Is 300,000, I'm sorry, 3,245,000. That is not including Texas National Guard.
And we have how much left? 3 million, right at 3 million.
Yes. So you'll be in the red 320,000.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to give you a minute to review number 6. Give you about 3 minutes to review number 6 so we can have a hearty conversation. Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Wright.
Mr. Wright, again, a question. If we go to tab, I believe it would read tab 2, we would see 6 as opposed to being in alphabetical order. Am I correct in understanding they are in order as they were ranked? Okay, so we don't have that.
They're alphabetical.
There are alphabetical.
The rankings are on that column there that shows how each individual recommendation ranked.
I see.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Ball.
Yes, Mr. Ball.
Could I ask Mr. Cato how firm the $9 million is?
The $9 million basically is the amount approved by the commission. We have enough that we can go one project over to cover, to fully fund that one project that goes over the $9 million. So you come up with 8.9, you got one more, whatever it is, we probably figure out.
Are we up for any discussion or?
Go ahead, Mr. Jeffries.
So just to throw out, if we cut the Texas National Guard Family Foundation from 500 to 100,000, that saves 400,000. American GI Forum gets multiple grants, and they are not at the priority, even though they're well voted. But that's 300,000 for employment, when there are other state programs for employment. And then if we also look down at the Citizens Development Center, which is 150 for employment in the same San Antonio area. So that those 3 adjustments, if we leave out American GI Forum, if we leave out Citizens Development, and if we cut the National Guard Family Foundation from 4 to 1, that saves us $850,000, which I think brings us very close to where we're at.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Ball.
Those numbers have on the board, on the tally board, have already cut out the full 500,000 for the Texas National Guard. So if you want to give them 100,000, you're now 400,000 over your 9 million. I'd also like to add that even though the American GI Forum National Veterans Outreach Program is a multiple applicant, their second application is denied, so if we cross them off on the 6th, they'll have both of their applicants be in red, which will be below the line.
All right, so this is what I'd like to vote on first, is I think we've had enough discussion on number 6. So what I want to do is go ahead and vote on the Texas National Guard. I'd like to see if someone will put out a motion on the Texas National Guard Family Support Foundation in an amount or lack of. Yes, Mr. Wright.
Mr. Wright, I would like to motion that we change the, I just lost the title. I wanted to read it correctly. The Texas National Guard Family Support Foundation. Change it from 500 to 100 and move that we include them in our, whether we're going to vote them with tranche 7 or tranche 6.
Mr. Jeffries.
This is Mr. Jeffries. I second that motion, thinking that we're at individual voting now. So
Let's just stay at that one, and then I'll talk about in my discussion. All right, so we have a motion out there by Mr. Wright for the Texas National Guard Family Support Foundation of $100,000, with the second from Mr. Jeffries. Now, with that said, is there any additional discussion on that? Okay, my discussion would be that then for line 6, before we go all in favor or nay, that then we'll go line by line on the different charities for number 6. Yes, Mr. Hatfield.
Would it be possible to maybe vote on the ones possible, except the ones that have red flags, and then go back and talk about them? That would only be like four of them, I believe.
We can talk about them,
Okay.
we'll go line by line, but, so now what I want to do is vote on the motion and seconded by Mr. Jeffries for $100,000 for the Texas National Guard Family Support Foundation. All those in favor?
Aye.
We have 7 in favor, any nays?
Nay.
1
Ball.
nay. Mr. Ball. So the motion passes with 7 yeas and 1 nay, correction. All right, so now that leaves how much money left to vote on, ma'am?
That's correct.
3.245?
I'm sorry?
How much money is left?
Available is
2.8.
2.8.
2.5.
Recommended is 6.1. The 6 votes was the tranche of
Okay,
the next one, which will be going line by line.
all right. So let's go ahead and start our discussion on the American GI Forum National Veterans Outreach Program for $300,000. Yes, Mr. Wright.
Madam Chairwoman, if I have done this correctly, I would like to change the order, recommend changing the order. I don't know if I need to make a motion to do that. We have voted and ranked each of these groups, and I think we should take them in rank order by the committee as opposed to an alphabetical order.
And you're referencing what tab, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in tab 2,
Yeah.
and the number 1 scored, oh, I'm sorry, I've done this backwards. It's golf. We go from low score to high score, and I've done it exactly backwards.
This is Mr. Ball, I would second that motion.
All right, restate your motion.
The motion, this is Mr. Wright, the motion is that we address, as we're going to run out of money in this group, that we address these in order of highest to lowest rank. And I screwed up when I was counting these, so I'm not sure the order, because it's like golf. Low score is better. Sorry about that.
Okay, and is there a second to that?
Mr. Ball, I'll second that we vote on these from low to high score.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? All right, we have 8 yeas and 0 nays. All right, the first one
First one will be Salvation Army of Grayson County. No, excuse me, Lone Star Legal Aid. Sorry, that's.
It's the bold underlying order. Those numbers.
There is a rank order, a yellow column,
Page 7.
and yes, I am on page 7.
All right, is everyone on page 7 and 10? I want to make sure we orient.
This is Mr. Jeffries.
Yes, Mr.
I
Jeffries.
move that we vote to approve Lone Star Legal Aid for $250,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's a motion by Mr. Jeffries for Lone Star Legal Aid for $250,000, seconded by Mr. Wright. Is there any additional discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
All right, we have 6 yeas and 2 nays. The motion passes for Lone Star Legal Aid, $250,000. Okay, the next organization, is there a motion?
The next organization, this is Mr. Wright, would be Salvation Army of Amarillo
For how much?
for $100,000. And I motion that we approve them for $100,000.
Is there a second on that?
I second.
All right, so that by Mr. Cervantes, so a motion by Mr. Wright for Salvation Army Amarillo, $100,000, seconded by Mr. Cervantes. Is there any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? The motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays. All right, is there a motion for the next one?
This is Mr. Wright. I would motion the next one is Salvation Army of Grayson County Corps for $50,000, and they have a 16 ranking, by the way. And I motion we approve them for $50,000.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Mr. Archer? Okay, a motion for Salvation Army, Grayson County Court for $50,000. Motion by Mr. Wright, seconded by Mr. Archer. Is there any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Wright? Okay. The motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays. All right, is there a motion for the next one?
Number 4 is Grace Under Fire. I'll let somebody else motion.
This is Mr. Jeffries. I motion that we recommend Grace After Fire receive $100,000.
Is there a second? Mr. Archer. So $100,000 Grace After Fire, motion by Mr. Jeffries, seconded by Mr. Archer. Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Ball.
Madam Chairman, this will be the second one, if approved, that will have approved in segment 6 that are high risk. Just wanted to highlight that, again, we're voting for these at high risk. And if I could ask either you or Mr. Cato to explain the high risk for this one, please.
Mr. Cato, please.
For Grace After Fire, in the high risk tab number 4, excuse me, in combination with another 100,000 Veterans Mental Health application, this organization is seeking 500,000 in FEA grants this cycle. Per the financials, their total revenue for 2015 was $422,000, and that includes portions of 2 FEA grants totaling $325,000. So in the possible corrective actions per the financials, this organization could be considered for about a maximum of a $200,000 or a reimbursement grant across all FEA categories. So it's a financial portion. Can they actually execute a reimbursement grant?
Thank you, Mr. Cato. And if we go back to the documents that are before the first tab for multiple applicants, you can see that their other application for 400,000 is below the line. So this is the only one they have above the line, and it's for $100,000. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Jeffries?
And I agree with Mr. Ball that there's a concern because of the risk, but this is one of the few organizations that are providing this support to women, and it's a really unique need that isn't always addressed by some of the other organizations. So, especially if the other one's below the line,
Yes, sir.
I think it's worth considering.
Yes, sir.
Is there any other discussion? I would like to go on record too and support your discussion there, Mr. Jeffries, as being a unique and diversified organization that supports women specifically. Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
8. Any nays? All right, the motion passes.
I abstain.
Your correction. We have 7 yeas, 1 abstention, 0 nays. The motion passes for $100,000 Grace After Fire. All right, the next organization, please.
Mr. Wright, Catholic Charities of San Antonio, for $300,000.
Is there a second on the motion? Mr. Ball?
I'll second it then.
All right, Mr. Ball seconds the motion. The motion out was by Mr. Wright for Catholic Charities, the Archdiocese of San Antonio, for $300,000. Seconded by Mr. Ball. Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Hatfield.
Mr. Hatfield, I'd like for Mr. Cato to explain to us the high risk on this.
I'm sorry, I was communicating. Which one are we looking at?
It's at the Catholic Charities of San Antonio.
Just a moment.
And what it, do I have the wrong one?
Catholic Charities of San Antonio is, again, in tab 4. Salaries and wage benefits, list directors from other agencies. Do not seem to be direct employees. So those costs, those salaries would probably not be allowable, and we could work that out in no negotiation should they be selected to have those removed. The other red flag for Archdiocese of San Antonio is the applicant is requesting funding to provide a clothing allowance to veterans. We would just have to ensure that that payment is not made directly to the veterans, but actually pays, because we cannot provide cash to veterans. So those are the 2 for that one.
Yes, Mr. Cervantes.
Are those the same? They have 2 different names. On tab 4, Catholic Charities San Antonio,
Archdiocese.
and then there you have Catholic Charities Archdiocese of San Antonio.
Yeah, I just got to tell you, they're the same.
They are, oh, thank you.
My question to Mr. Cato would be, okay, so requesting funding to provide a clothing allowance to veterans, and you would make sure that they don't get paid to the veteran. What kind of stopgap would that be?
It would be, yeah, they could do a purchase so that the money goes directly to wherever the clothing is coming from. They could provide the clothing, very much like you have a food bank or a clothing bank or something like that. They could actually provide the items, but they cannot provide direct cash to a veteran.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
I'm confused because part of the general assistance grant or the emphasis is on giving financial assistance. So don't they make payments to veterans for other things, or do they make it straight to the utilities?
Correct.
Okay.
The payments, if for financial assistance, if they're making rental assistance payments, if they're making utility assistance payments or deposits, those payments have to go directly to the vendor. Our rules prohibit any cash going directly to the veteran.
But they could, for instance, then buy a gift card from Penny's and say, use that to buy clothes?
Gift cards are a cash equivalent, so no,
Okay.
they couldn't do that.
But they could get clothes.
Correct.
All right.
And we've got processes and procedures, and the grantees know that too. It's just that it showed up in the red flag, so it's one of those, hey, we have to confirm this when we do it so that there's no confusion further on down the line.
Cool.
Okay?
So then there was another red flag that I have concern about with the salaries, and you said you could work that out.
Yes, there's folks listed in the salaries and benefits that, at least on what we can determine from the application, they are not direct employees of this organization. So in order to avoid any sub-granting, which is a prohibited cost for us, we would have to make sure that non-direct employees or not employees of this organization are not paid in this grant as employees. It could be that they contract with somebody else and use them as a contract vendor, but it's a detail that we would have to work out.
Mr. Archer, I do see you, but Mr. Hatfield, I was motioning him, and then you'll be next, sir. Yes, Mr. Hatfield.
Mr. Hatfield, in these negotiations, let's say that you do see that the amount for the salaries is out of line. Do you move that money over to another area so it comes up to 500,000?
We would allow them to adjust their budget so it goes with the amount that you awarded, yes. So, like I said, it's a contract negotiation part. If you award, or you recommend them and the commission awards them for $500,000 or $300,000, that money is on the table. It's just how it is included in the contract, in the budget of how it goes.
Would that be like?
Yes, Mr. Archer.
Would that be like contracting with a licensed
The
counselor?
mic, please.
Would that be like contracting with a licensed counselor or social worker? Is that where that kind of contracting with someone that is licensed or certified?
Yes, I mean, it just depends on how somebody sets it up. Some organizations, you're talking mental health, but some organizations actually have counselors on staff that are employees. Some organizations have their admin on as staff, and they contract with counselors. That's
Thank you.
All right, is there any other additional discussion? All right, then I'm going to make sure we put the motion out since we've had a lengthy discussion. Mr. Wright made the motion for Catholic Charities, Archdiocese of San Antonio for $300,000, correct, Mr. Wright?
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Ball seconded.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Eight yeas, any opposed? All right, the motion passes with 8 yeas and 0 nays for $300,000. All right, so we have available $2,025,000, correct, ma'am? Yeah, all right, next motion, please.
This is Mr. Wright. We have 4 grant requests that have tied scores. Let me read them. Defenders of Freedom for $150,000. Family Service Center of Greater Houston, $300,000. Operation Comfort, $200,000. And Wesley Community Center, $75,000, for a total of $725,000. And I motion that we approve all 4.
All right, the Defenders,
Defenders of Freedom,
yes,
Family Service Center of Greater Houston,
yes,
Operation Comfort,
yes.
and then on the last page, the last one is Wesley Community Center,
For the total amount of?
$725,000.
Ms. Moore, do you concur?
Yes,
On that one.
725.
Just want to make sure, we got to be exact, gentlemen. Thank you. All right, is there a second for that?
Archer.
Mr. Archer seconds that. All right, so we have 4 charities: Defenders of Freedom, Family Services of Houston, Operation Comfort, and the Wesley Foundation, correct? For $725,000. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
We have 8 yeas, any nays, 0 nays. The motion passes with 8 yeas. For $725,000, Defenders of Freedom, Family Services of Houston, Operational Comfort, and Wesley Foundation. All right, so we have available after that vote, $1.3 million. The next motion, please.
This is Mr. Wright. The next 2 groups are Houston Volunteer Lawyers Program at $250,000 and SPAN, S-P-A-N, for $20,000. for a total of $270,000.
All right, is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Mr. Hatfield seconds. Is there any additional discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Hatfield, okay. 8 yeas, any nays? 0 nays. The motion passes with 8 yeas and 0 nays. All right, that leaves exactly $1,030,000. The next motion, please.
This is Mr. Wright. There are 2 organizations next. The American GI Forum National Veterans Outreach Program for $300,000 and the Citizens Development Center for $150,000, totaling $450,000.
Is there a second? Mr. Hatfield seconds. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
We have 7 yeas. All those, Mr. O'Reilly, no? All right, so there are 7 yeas and 1 nay. The motion passes.
Can I comment for those who?
Yes, Mr. O'Reilly?
I'm simply voting no in that in my own review, neither one of those organizations made the cut in my judgment. So without going back and digging into my material here, I'm just saying I would vote no on that. So that's where that's coming from.
Thank you, Mr. O'Reilly. Duly noted.
And Chairwoman, can you list out those organizations again and the previous one,
The
the previous motion,
I can do that for you if you need. We'll cover it real quick.
please?
The previous 4, Defenders of Freedom for $150,000, Family Service Center of Greater Houston for $300,000, Operation Comfort for $200,000, Wesley Community Center for $75,000.
Okay.
And then those last 2,
Yes.
American GI Forum National Veterans Outreach Program Incorporated, $300,000.
Wait, that's not the order. The next one after that motion that passed was SPAN in
Yes.
Houston.
Oh, I missed that.
SPAN for $20,000 in the Houston lawyers.
Volunteer Lawyers Program.
Okay, that's the one that we needed.
Yeah,
Okay.
250,000.
That's it.
Okay, and then we had the American GI Forum of $300,000. And then the Citizen Development Center for $150,000. So we'll stand fast a minute and make sure we have our numbers.
Please. Okay, we are up to date, thank you.
All right. So we have left $580,000 to vote on, correct, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, do we have a motion for the next organizations? Mr. Wright.
The next organization is Recovery Resource Council, applying for $300,000 in the financial assistance category.
And get one on the second page.
Oh, you are absolutely right. My apologies. And the Texas Legal Services Center, which is providing legal service in the amount of $300,000.
And your first charity that you had?
Was the Recovery Resource Council for $300,000. They were both for $300,000, taking us $20,000 over the limit.
I second that motion.
Yes, we can. The question is, can we go to 20,000 over the million on that? We can.
With that in consideration, I second that motion.
All right, is there any discussion on that, gentlemen? Yes, Mr. Hatfield.
Mr. Hatfield, Mr. Cato, could you discuss the red flag on the Texas Legal?
Yeah, I got
one?
Texas Legal Service Center.
Center.
Texas Legal Services Center is listed as a high-risk grantee because the applicant's audit they submitted with their application has significant deficiencies due to not properly accounting for grant financial transactions. So that they have audit finding significant deficiencies that would make them a high-risk grantee.
Me personally, I'm going to vote no for this because what I'd then like to do is vote no for both of them and then turn around and then do them one by one. Because we have a motion out on the floor, I would like to vote that first motion for Recovery Resource Council for $300,000 and Texas Legal Services Center. Vote that in whole, and then it's either going to pass or it's not. But I'll just put my 2 cents in. I would personally like to vote them individually. Yes, Mr. Hatfield.
Mr. Hatfield, could you just make a friendly amendment to see if they would agree to it, to just vote them one by one?
No, but we'll go ahead and vote that one. All right, is there any further discussion? All right, yeah, all those in favor of the motion? 2 in favor, 3 in favor of the motion? Okay, let me restate the motion, okay? The motion out there is the Recovery Resource Council for $300,000 and the Texas Legal Services Center for $300,000 for a total of $600,000. That's what's out there, and it was seconded by Mr. Jeffries. We had our discussion. Now, all those in favor? Okay, we have 2 in favor. All those not in favor? Okay, we have 2 in favor, 6 not in favor. The motion fails. All right, now we'd like to go ahead and put out a motion for the next organization.
Mr. Wright, I would like to motion that we approve Recovery Resource Council for $300,000.
Is there a second? Mr. Hatfield. All right, is there any discussion? All right, I'd like to put out there then, all those in favor of Recovery Resources Council for $300,000, all in favor? Aye. There's 8. Any nays? All right, so the motion passes 8-0, and for the Recovery Resource Council for $300,000. That leaves $280,000 available. Is there a motion out on the floor?
The next scoring grant request is the Texas Legal Services Center, and my motion is that we move on to number 10 on the list. That we do not fund them based on their financials.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Hatfield seconds that. Is there any discussion? All right, so the motion out on the floor is the Texas Legal Services Center. We will not be funding them. We will move on to the next organization. All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Jeffries, what's your vote? Nay. Nay? All right, so there are 7 in favor, 1 nay, 0 abstentions. The motion passes.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I voted nay.
You voted nay. Correction. I stand corrected. There are 6 yeas, 2 nays, 0 abstentions. The motion still passes that the Texas Legal Services Center is not funded. Next motion on the floor, sir.
This is Mr. Wright. The next organization is Salvation Army, a Georgia corporation, Houston, for $200,000. And my motion is to approve.
I'll second.
Were you finished with your motion, Mr. Wright?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Mr. O'Reilly seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? All right, so the motion on $200,000 for the I didn't get the organization fast enough.
Salvation Army, a Georgia corporation, Houston.
Salvation Army, a Georgia corporation, Houston, for $200,000. All those in favor? Aye. Any nays? 0. The motion passes for $200,000. Mr. Palladino, I do recognize you, sir, and this is Mr. Tom Palladino, the Executive Director of the Texas Veterans Commission.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all being here today. I appreciate the members that are here today. Richard, Robert, Richard, 2 Richards, right? Daniel, and then we have Perry. Hi, Perry. How you doing?
Morning, sir.
Robert and Charles. So, and you're missing somebody, right? We're missing one person.
Yes, Mr. Potee.
Right. Okay. Well, that's great. Well, thank you for coming down here. You know, on your time and doing the service for the state. It's very important what you do, because this money is invaluable to the organizations out there that help veterans. This Fund Veteran Assistance was created back in 2009, and then then we had funding streams come in, mostly from a lot of veteran cash, but from donations, and that has borne a lot of fruit. And so from that funding source, the funding sources, we have created a good amount of money in order to award grants to cities, counties, and nonprofits out there that help veterans. And so I appreciate all your applications and all you do to help veterans, well, the organizations in the audience. And I want to thank the staff. We have a great FVA staff under Charlie Cato and company who take all the applications, process them all. They do evaluate the applications, and then they give them all to the advisory committee, and then the advisory committee then looks at them in detail. And just reminding you, which you already know, that the 5 commissioners appointed by the governor make the final decision, and they pass the rules, and they put those priorities in place, which they change from time to time. But currently, those priorities are outstanding grants come first, the evaluation that the staff does, and then it goes to geographical distribution, which is services that do the most geographical distribution throughout the whole state. We don't want to leave part of the state unfunded. It's very important. And then we want to have different types of services in any particular geographical area. And then we want to fully fund grants as much as possible. And then lastly, I think there's 2 service categories which are more higher priority than the others, which is financial assistance and supportive services. Did I get those right? Got those right. So I always got to ask them. But I remind the advisory committee to make sure you're following the commission priorities, right? And you look at the staff's evaluation, and of course you read through the whole application, and then you come up with a good discussion. I appreciate you discussing. I think that's very important, rather than just approving. I've seen you have some discussion, which is very important to do, and do the best job you can to award the grants out to as many organizations as possible that will meet those criteria, and get as much services as we can to as many veterans and their families throughout the state as we can. And that's really the whole point, is to make sure the state is covered. So thank you again. You're doing a great job. I appreciate it. Thank you, the FVA staff, for everything that you've done as well. So I'll let you go, and I'll let you get back to it, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palladino.
All right. Thank you all.
All right, so we're in general assistance funding here. We have available $80,000 left, correct, Mr. Moore? Okay. And is there a motion on the floor? Yes, Mr. Wright.
Question,
Yes, Mr. Wright.
or point of information, point of order. With $80,000, the next grant request in line is for $200,000. Can we either bump up, or can we take this $80,000 and move it into another category?
Can't move the 80,000 to another category because that money is set by the commission.
Right.
But what's remaining in this tranche, as you call it, if you have one last project in there that you want to bring in, we should be able to fully fund that, should you recommend that.
In that case, let me make a motion. This is Mr. Wright. Sorry. This is Mr. Wright, the Sabine Valley Regional MHMR Community Health Care. And I don't recall this grant, but it is next in line, although it is in the service category of employment. And the last grant we approved was in the service category of employment, just as a point of information. And I move that we fully fund that, since the funds are available.
Second.
Okay, so Mr. Wright put out there a motion to fully fund Sabine Valley Regional MHMR County Community Health Corps for $200,000. It's seconded by Mr. Jeffries. Is there any discussion? The only discussion I'll put out there is one member suggested $150,000. Didn't know if they wanted to discuss that. No. All right then, with that said, all those in favor of fully funded Sabine Valley Regional MHMR Community Health Corps for $200,000, all in favor? Aye. 8 ayes. Any nays? 0 nays. So the motion passes. And that takes care of the budget. It was for $9 million, but it is recommended for $9.120 million. Correct, Ms. Moore?
Correct.
All right, with that, I would like to propose to the committee members that we take a 10-minute break. And I would like to remind everyone that the clock of record is the one on the back wall there, just so it's easy for everyone. So we'll go ahead and reconvene at, how about 10:05? Thank you.
So you ran into some traffic problems?
I had to take
I spent the night. They had a big
I
wreck.
didn't have regular, if I had regular answers, I would have done it.
Chuck just said,
It's five equal and competing priorities.
You know,
And juggling them is
you know what,
all
it
up
will
to
just take.
His order is the order of his representative.
and that's good, because that's what's going on the line. Outstanding, widespread diversity, because the financing and the support of the, okay, I got it, but
And he made
No,
examples.
supportive services, I mean, that's what they want you to do, but they also want to make sure that
okay,
that's why it's up to you guys.
okay.
I thought that was genius.
Well,
I
that's,
know, I think that's
And,
great.
and I won't take the hit on that one. From last year, we have it sorted that way. We unfortunately lost exactly, so we didn't quite get it up to speed. We'll have it that way next time.
we got a mathematician.
I'm screaming about it.
No, that's why I was sure.
Try to keep
And I'm guessing ladies, I just want people to know, my point was, yeah, they are multiple, but the other one's right, so this is the only one they got.
That's actually
Those are excellent. Thank you.
No, it's perfect. Stop it. Wait a minute.
I don't know.
Because I want to be
I'm sure it's all
exact. Because it only makes your work easier when it's back to the office.
Exactly.
I would have done that. I couldn't decide a day or two ago, so they actually went on mine and said, okay, I'm the one that voted no there, why did I vote no?
Where have you been?
Well, the big reason I have not been in the past is it then motivates the discussions and we want to make sure because you can talk to us, but you can't talk to each other. So giving you this could indicate, could be seen that you are getting inputs from other people before you get here. That's why when we asked, hey, because we discussed the point, there's a lot of material here. Do you want to take a break after we present it? And let them review it. Yeah, but it didn't happen that way, so.
Just so you guys know, I was just
That's why I held it. So And part of this is your first year, right?
No, second.
Second, but you learn I don't know,
No, my point is, okay.
I got it, yeah.
People voted or not, or 7 people voted, not one of the 2 abstains, and why did I abstain? If it was just because,
Sorry, we
I ran out of money.
They were in some heated discussions, and it was good to get that.
You know, Mr. Ball, and that's why I would tell you, be passionate right then and there, because on one, I don't think you were on the committee yet. I was like, no, wait a minute. No, we are going to discuss, in this case, it happened to be the women's one, the Grace Napper Fire. This was 2 years ago, so now it's public record. And I just dug my heels in and said, wait a minute. And then that was his first year's, and I said, Mr. Chairman, I put a motion out there, we have to vote now. And they kept wanting to talk. I said, no, we're going to talk, we're going to vote, it's out there now. Sure enough, yeah, some of these other guys are like, hey,
but no,
wait a
my thing
minute.
on the one was, hey, now that we're double vote, hey, look, yeah, we're multiple, but all the rest of them, this is our only grant.
Excellent point. And you know what, yeah, I mean, let's see how this is. And that's why I waited till the end, because I said, well, you know.
I'm championing this one particular. But that's what I'm saying, all the variants and all the multiples don't require.
And that's why I put out there, hey, I'm going to vote legal services. So, because we combined. No, now we're going to vote one by one.
And see, that was the one that I had said yesterday. But when it came down to number crunching, or you're going to get specific, I was looking at okay.
Hi. Oh, okay, good. Hi. I'm always open. One thing I'm not going to say is, it's like, yeah, sure.
I thought it was a good time. Kind of why I think looking at our ears.
There we go.
I was 24.
Army back then. I love riding for the Marines.
Yeah, trying to learn the garrison. Trying to learn the
We're going to be gone for a few hours.
Richard, where do you live? We're in Austin.
It's actually we live starting 9 o'clock.
Okay.
I stay home, I'll lay down and work.
Condo? Okay. Where did you live before? Okay. Yeah, my son-in-law, I've got 2 kids down there. My son-in-law is Riverside Home, Scott Turner Residential, on 6th Street. He's been doing it 18 years. Small operation, but he's done very well. He went into East Austin 20 years ago. But he owns some stuff in Clarksville and Northwest Hills. And now they're redoing Shoal Creek area. It's my daughter and Scott Turner. He's a good guy. And then my other son is in Wells Branch. He's been in Wells Branch for 20 years. He's a school counselor and a family counselor. We got 2 kids there. You're right. Remember Cisco's? It's where LBJ that's over in East Austin. I was with 3 companies. Small office on Riverside in the 60s. And then I went to Temple. I was in banking. A long time ago. Right.
So, but I kind of hurt feelings.
Overhead, like Chicago. Overhead. I can't believe the skyline, how it's changed in the last 5 or 6 years.
So they have a guy there.
Right, right.
For me,
The one in Dallas was 54 that I was involved. I was with Interfirst Bank a long time ago. It was 54 stories in Dallas.
so yes, she claims to have a like Pennsylvania medical college, which isn't training college.
Not at all.
It's not who she got it from. She got it from like earlier iterations when they were non-accredited, and she got this degree. And a real school block that.
Now we catch up with
She
the
claims
business.
the degree.
It's on her cell phone.
That was the Grove.
Next, housing.
So just like the challenge going down.
What is our total for housing? 2 million or 1.8?
I've been wanting to go down there. Did you ever go
4.5.
up in the mountains? Did you ever go to Leo or Guadalajara? My
Do you want
favorite place
AMH too?
is San Miguel de Allende, up in the mountains. The Swiss and the Germans, many Americans live up there. It's real San Miguel, but there's no airport. I think the
Yeah.
closest one is
He's on the beach.
Oh, you know what? I've got it. I didn't realize you included it. I just forgot where it is.
I haven't been there in 20 years.
To see where it is, we have to start voting. So I think
And the people,
we're doing the same
they're
thing.
good people. They're good people.
We had lunch last year. It was closed.
Where was your hometown? Okay. Here's Sepulpa.
And then there's
The cut is on fire. At the end of We'll be starting in about 1 minute.
Just make sure I've got that right. See how we're done.
We've had a lot of people in Temple go to the University of Tulsa on scholarships. I got a chance to plan this out for the next hour before it just goes. Now you can see why they put it in later.
Yeah, I can see that.
They don't want to get blamed for it.
All right, are y'all ready? Crunching numbers.
I'm trying to get ready.
Tony and Rob. And 1 second, we are.
That's right. Thank you, ma'am. We'll make sure that the TDC staff is ready. Once they're ready, then we will start with our next agenda item. Thank you. Just let me-
Madam Chair, we are ready.
Okay, with that said, Thank you, Ms. Zamora. We'll go ahead and go on to agenda number 5. That brings us to agenda item number 5, discussion and action on recommendations to the Commission for the 2017-2018 Housing for Texas Hero Grants. As before, I'd like to review with the committee members and for the public the grant review and approval process. The Housing for Texas Hero Grants that the committee recommends today will be presented to the Texas Veterans Commission at its quarterly meeting on May the 3rd, 2017. The Commission will review recommendations and make final decisions on awarding the 2017-2018 Housing for Texas Heroes Grants. The awarded grants will begin July 1, 2017 and end on June 30, 2018, a period of 1 year. The request for applications indicated we anticipated $4.5 million available for the 2017-2018 Housing for Texas Heroes Grants. The 2017-2018 Housing for Texas Heroes Request for Applications, RFA, was posted to the Texas Veterans Commission website on August 29, 2016. An informational webinar was hosted on September 30, 2016 for potential applicants, and then a recording of the webinar was placed on the FBA website for on-demand access by potential applicants. Applications were due November the 3rd, 2016. 41 applications were received requesting over $11 million. 40 applications were deemed eligible for evaluation. Each eligible application was reviewed by 3 different staff members using the evaluation rubric that was also posted to the TVC website with application materials. The advisory committee members were provided with the evaluated application materials on early January 2017 in order to prepare the application presentation meeting held on January 30th and 31, 2017, where 27 applicants presented their Housing for Texas Hero projects to our committee. Committee members' individual funding recommendations were submitted to the FBA staff by March 20th, 2017. Those recommendations have been rolled up and compiled and provided today to aid in our discussion. Again, as we begin our funding recommendation discussion, I would like to reiterate the Commission's guidance to the Advisory Committee. This guidance includes: 1, developing recommendations that will ensure widespread distribution of grants across the state; 2, giving priority to the funding, the service category of home modification systems, developing recommendations that encourage a diversity of services provided within the geographic regions; 4, giving priority to the funding outstanding rated grant applications; and 5, fully funding applications wherever possible. Is there any committee member who has a conflict with any of the Housing for Texas Heroes applicants being considered for funding? Per the Commission's conflict of interest policy, we have all signed in an acknowledgement. If you have a conflict with an applicant being considered for the Housing for Texas Heroes funding, you must recuse yourself from the entire discussion and recommendation process. At this point, please turn to the tab labeled 6 for the discussion aids for the Housing for Texas Hero applicants. As a review, you should find a roll-up summary, an expanded roll-up analysis charts, a red flags list, and a list of all eligible applications. The roll-up section of the analysis charts reflect the projects receiving 5 or more recommendations for funding. All right, with that said, before I go on, is there, I'm going to give you a minute to take a look and then see if you have any questions for Mr. Cato or any clarifications. Yes, Mr.
Madam
Wright.
Chairwoman, just as a point of information, if we vote by tranches again, the first 4 will total $4,550,000, and we are granting $450,000.
4.5 million.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, sorry.
All right, That is just for the edification of the committee. We'll go from there. But really with the guidance right now I've put out to the committee, I just wanted to give you a couple minutes if you had specific questions for Mr. Cato or you needed a couple of additional minutes.
Okay, I just want to clarify, math in public. Our below the line, above the line cut was at 5. So 5 votes is above the line, and that total above the line is 5 million. So I'm not sure you're 4.5. And my mathematicians over here in the corner are the math in public saying I'm good there, so.
Great. Okay. In that case. I will
The
take
grand
order.
totals for 4.5 million
The available, yes.
available, right.
Let me do my thing.
And that does include Texas National Guard.
Yes. You don't have the totals. It should be on.
Okay, are the committee members ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, then now let us begin with the 2017-2018 Housing for Texas Heroes Grant discussion and recommendations. Is there a motion to recommend funding for the organizations in line number 8, which would be Front Steps Incorporated, $100,000, Given Hope, $75,000, Salvation Army Amarillo, $200,000, Salvation Army Waco, $200,000. Salvation Army Georgia Corporation, Corpus Christi, Texas, $250,000. Salvation Army, a Georgia Corporation, El Paso, Texas, that subs out for $1,025,000.
Madam Chairman, this is Mr. Ball. I would make a motion that we would approve all the charities that you just mentioned in Group 8.
Is there a second? All right, Mr. Archer seconds. All right, so the motion out on the floor is all the charities that, the 6 charities I mentioned for $1,025,000. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
There are 8 ayes, 0 nays. The motion passes for the following 6 charities. Front Steps Incorporated, $100,000. Given Hope, $75,000. Salvation Army Amarillo, $200,000. Salvation Army Waco, $200,000. Salvation Army, a Georgia Corporation, Corpus Christi, Texas, $250,000. Salvation Army, a Georgia Corporation, El Paso, Texas, $200,000, for a total of $1,025,000. One moment, please. Okay, on line 7, we have Caritas of Austin, 50,000. Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston, 500,000. Community Partnership for the Homeless Incorporated, doing business as Green Doors, 150,000. Operation Finally Home for 75,000. And that subtotals out to 775,000. Is there a motion on the floor for the whole amount for line 7? Yes, Mr.
Ms.
Hatfield.
Hatfield, make the motion.
Go ahead and
For
make a
line
motion.
7.
All right, Mr. Hatfield puts out there a motion for line 7 for 775,000. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Jeffries seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? All right, with that said, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? All right, the motion passes for the following charities on line 7 for 775,000. Specifically, Caritas of Austin, 50,000. Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston, 500,000. Community Partnership for the Homeless Incorporated, doing business as Green Doors, and Operation Finally Home for 75,000. All right, is there, I'd like to put a motion out there that we vote totally on line 6. For Harris County, 300,000. Rebuilding Together Houston, 400,000. San Antonio Metropolitan Ministry, doing business as SAM Ministries, for a total of, ma'am?
1.2 million.
1.2 million. Is there a motion?
Motion that we approve all items that will receive 6 votes.
Is there a second to the motion? Mr. Archer seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Ball.
Yes, Madam Chairman, just as we look at Group 6 and we look at the widespread distribution of funds, we take a look at the Houston area, which is a large area, I will add, but we have 25 people being helped with this, 300,000. The Rebuilding Houston Together, another 400,000 for 65 people. And in Group 7, we already gave the Houston area 500,000. So that's a lot of money going to the Houston area just as information purposes only, and this 300,000 is only going to support 25 people.
Okay, we have home modification involved in this assistance, and that was one of the priorities put out by the...
Yes, ma'am.
And your conversation is duly noted, sir. Is there any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Hatfield.
Mr. Hatfield, I had some of the same concerns, and these were some tough decisions before the committee itself, simply because we had requests for $10,825,000, but we only had to give away $4,500,000. I recommend. And that's where I was having a problem with more of it in one area, and I was trying to separate it out. I can accept this, but it's just a consideration of why I went the way I did.
Can you break it on the home modification?
If you want to look on the analysis chart, she's asked me to show you a breakout because you have the priority for home modification assistance. If you look on tab 8, the priority charts for home modification assistance are the third set, the top, the ones you're looking at the top there. And you can look at both the applications that were received in those categories, and then you can see what's in the roll-up that goes through that cutoff line at 5 of how much is being pushed towards each one of the service categories. And home modification assistance, like I said on that page, that is the Commission's priority.
Madam Chairman, one last piece of discussion is Mr. Ball. Again, the cut line was inclusive of Group 5. We have 4.5 million to give out, but through Group 5, can you reiterate what that total is? Isn't it over the 4.5?
Ms. Samore? It's 5 million, correct?
So we're already 500,000 over
Yes.
as we approve right now. Okay.
Yeah.
No, Mr. Fowler.
We're at line 6 right now, yes, sir.
Yes, gotcha.
And my thoughts were, at that point in time, Mr. Ball and fellow committee members, is then on 5 to go line by line on that one to go from there.
Do we have a motion?
Is there a motion right now?
We do have a motion we're going to have to vote on, but I agree with you.
Well, if you look, Harris County is a multiple grantee. So we pulled them out of, if we pull them out of the 6, that would save that money on the back end. And maybe stop a duplication of services.
As we're discussing to my fellow committee members, so home modification, and so within line 6, and then you look up, line 6 is the first time we see the home modification. Once we drop below line 6 to meet the Commission's intent, that's where we start seeing more home modification. So I just put that out there because the motion right now is out there for all of line 6. Yes, Mr. Ball.
Yes, Madam Chairman, Mr. Ball, just one clarification, one additional point on this. It was brought up by Mr. Jeffries. Harris County, the topic of discussion right now is a multiple applicant, and they have already been approved for $300,000 in our first category. So they do have funds already going. Both of these were above the line. They've already had one approved that's above the line. So just another discussion point. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Ball. Yes, Mr. Hatfield.
One of the issues that I wrestled with was the cost of each of these, of this housing. And that was pretty high, around $12,000 a unit. But it's also more expensive in Houston. So I can, go with the motion as it is.
You're right, 1.2 million of line 6 is a lot. But Harris County, that's a lot of money. And yeah, and I concur, it's a large city. But I think then we have to think of the population of, okay, it's the 4th largest city, but the number of veterans in there, because at the end of the day, it's, this money's for the veterans. So does that really support that comment of the 4th largest city? Not putting you down, sir, I'm just saying.
And I think there is a correlation.
Sir, if you could speak into the microphone, please.
Mr. Archer, I'm a retired Veterans Land Board, and at one time, we had the highest census for veterans in the Houston area, along with San Antonio, per capita.
Yes, sir.
So I believe that there is a need down there.
Thank you, sir. It's duly noted. Yes, Mr. Jeffries.
So we just did a needs assessment of the Houston MSA. If they were a state, I think that'd be the 29th largest state for veterans. And they're second only in the state to the 6th county, Dallas, Tarrant County, all that area. So there's a huge amount of veterans there. And I do think that pushing support there is good. But there's support for Houston and some of these other tranches. And so as Mr. Ball pointed out, this is not, so the Harris County Veterans Homeless Prevention, whatever that is, which seems to me a little bit duplicative of the financial assistance, only it's for a very small amount of veterans, and it would be their second grant. If we skip that, if we separated that out from the other 2 and 6, then there's still other Houston grantees in 5 that might become available at that point. So we're still getting distribution, but we're focusing more on the priorities of the home modification. It's just, that's a suggestion, because somebody's going to have to come up short.
Mr. Wright, I thought you had your hand up. No?
I have nothing to add.
Mr. Hatfield, I know at one time you had yours up. No. Mr. Ball.
This is Mr. Ball, I'll just dogpile with Mr. Jeffries. Houston's great, they got a lot of people, they got a lot of veterans, but with all those veterans, this 300,000 is only going to support 25 of them.
Okay, so with that said, we have a motion out there. And so I want to vote on the motion in total. And then depending on how that motion goes, there could be further. Okay, so the motion out there is to vote for total line 6, Harris County Rebuilding Together Houston, San Antonio Metropolitan Ministry, doing business as SAM Ministries, and it was seconded by Mr. Archer. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any nays? Nay. All right, so we have 1 in favor, 7 nays. The motion does not pass. All right, so now what I'd like to do is go ahead and now put back out there line by line for 6. Is there a motion out there for the first one, which is Harris County for $300,000? Is there a motion out there? Okay, then if there's no motion, we'll go ahead and reject that. Am I correct, committee? All right, let's go on now to Rebuilding Together Houston for $400,000. Is there a motion?
So moved. Oh.
All right, Mr. Wright has a motion out there, Rebuilding Together Houston for $400,000. Is there a second?
I'll second it now.
Second by Mr. Paul. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor for Rebuilding Together Houston for $400,000?
Aye.
We have 8 yeas, any nays? All right, the motion passes, $400,000 for Rebuilding Together Houston. All right, there's a motion out there for San Antonio Metropolitan Ministries, doing business as SAM Ministries, for $500,000. Is there a motion?
Madam Chairman, I'll motion to approve that.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wright. All right, is there any discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion? Aye. There are 8 yeas, any nays? 0 nays?
I'm a nay on that.
That correction, there are 7 yeas, 1 nay. The motion passes, 7 yeas, 1 nay. All right, now we're going to go down to line 5. We'll do that one line by line. And Ms. Zamora, we have available 1.8 million. Is that correct, ma'am?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so we have 1.8 million. The sum total for line 5, ma'am,
2 million.
is 2 million.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes, Mr. Wright.
this is Mr. Wright. Before we begin discussion of that, and I've broken these down by the voting order of the body, but there are 2 things that I would like to bring up. With Rebuilding Together Greater Dallas, they have removed their executive director, and part of the reason is they felt he was focusing too much on veterans. So I am, yes. In fact, they are talking about Operation Freedom specifically in here, which is a program that rehabs 60 veteran homes in 60 days from September 11th to November 11th. And the dates become fairly obvious. My understanding is they're not going to continue that program. But I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty with that organization. The second one is that we have ranked very highly the Texas National Guard Family Support Foundation again, and I wanted to throw that out there just so that the body knew. before we started voting, to think about that. Because with a $250,000 grant, we basically would have granted them almost all of their revenue stream from last year. And because we're reimbursement grants, that becomes a little bit of a sticky wicket. So, offered just for consideration.
Do you have any insight, Mr. Cato, that you would further like to clarify, except for, yes, the home modification again? Here's what I'll say on rebuilding together.
Start with your questions.
Well, can I say what I have to say first? Well, Mr. Wright, I respect everything you have to say, and I respect everything that every committee member says. I would just say that I personally am going to rely on what I see in black and white here by just that. And it's not a rebuttal, and it's certainly not against you, sir. However, when I vote what's in black and white and what the guidance is to protect us all. And with that, Mr. Cato.
And as the staff, really all I can say is they have not withdrawn their application.
So I would leave the committee members with that, and then as we're voting, reference tab 7, and line 5, that we're still really short on the commission's, I want to highlight the commission's priority to home modification, okay?
And Madam Chair, I believe CLC does not have a service category listed in your binder. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That one is listed as home modification.
Thank you, Ms. Zamora, for the clarification. All right, gentlemen, then let's go ahead and move on from there. Is there a motion out on the floor for, yes, Mr. Wright?
I was going to ask, Madam Chair, do you want to continue to vote these in rank order?
I think that is the most appropriate matter, modus operandus on this. Is there any discussion from the committee? Okay, then let's go ahead and go with rank order. Do you have a...
Yes, ma'am.
And please clarify how we're doing it again for all, so everyone knows, please, sir.
This is Mr. Wright. The committee has voted to consider the categories where we're going to have to leave someone out, unfortunately, and rank order. The committee has voted in their roll-up, and we're using basically golf scoring. So the higher somebody is ranked, the lower their score is going to be. And I have broken them down. I think I have this correctly. In order, and sure enough, CLC is in fact number 1 along with Salvation Army of Grayson County. CLC has asked for a grant of $500,000. Salvation Army has asked, Grayson County has asked for a grant of $100,000. My motion is that we approve both of those for the total amount.
The total amount being how much is your math, sir?
$600,000.
That's what I...
Make sure the staff checks that because I'm not very good at math.
That's second.
Wait, one moment.
That is 600,000.
600,000. All right, so the motion out there, Mr. Wright, is for CLC Incorporated, 500,000, and the Salvation Army of Grayson County, 100,000. Is there a second? Mr. Cervantes, is there any discussion? The only thing I would like to highlight in the discussion is both home modification for CLC, Salvation Army Grayson is Homeless Veterans Support Program. So just wanted to put that out there. Okay, is on this motion, all in favor? Aye. There are 8 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes for $500,000 CLC. And then the Salvation Army of Grayson County, 100,000 for a total of 600. And that leaves available, ma'am?
1.2 million.
1.2 million. All right, is there a motion now for the next category?
The next category is the Texas National Guard Family Support Foundation doing veteran homeless prevention for a grant request of $250,000. And I motion that we approve. Sorry.
Is there a second? Yes, Mr. Hatfield, you're seconding it?
Yes.
All right, so the motion was made by Mr. Wright, Mr. Hatfield seconds, and is there any discussion? Mr. Cato, how close will that put us to the financials on that?
Yeah,
What we've approved.
from their application, we didn't cover this the first time around, from their application, their financial statements from 2014 to 2015, total assets in 2014 was $297,000, 2015 was $278,000. In their 2015 revenue, their total revenue was $333,000, of which that revenue, $300,000 was a TDC grant. So those are the numbers. So.
All right, just so there's clarification out to the committee members. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
So there are, keep your hands up, please. For favor of this motion, there are 6 yeas and nays, 2 nays. So the motion passes for the Texas National Guard Family Support Foundation for $250,000. All right, the next, so that leaves $950,000 left. The next motion out there?
The third group, although there are 2 are tied, so this is actually the 4th group, is Presbyterian Night Shelter doing homeless veteran support. They are requesting a $150,000 grant. My motion is that we approve that in total.
Is there a second on that? Mr. Hatfield seconds. Is there any discussion? Okay, my discussion is, that is, correct me if I'm wrong, Homeless Veterans Support Program. I'm going to tell you, gentlemen, we're getting pretty heavy on that, and I don't think we're following the guidance. And I would just say, let your conscience be your guide on that. And is there any further discussion on that? Yes, Mr. Wright.
Madam Chairwoman, just as another point of information, the next category, category 4, has all three of the grant requests in that category are home modification, to your point.
Right. So I would just stand firm on my statement, let your conscience be your guide on how we vote on this. Okay, so with that said, all in favor of $150,000 for the Presbyterian Night Shelter? All in favor? Okay, there are 5 yays, not in favor, nays, and there are 3 nays. The motion passes 5-3 for $150,000 for the Presbyterian Night Shelter. All right, so that now leaves $800,000. Is there a motion out on the floor?
In keeping, Madam Chairwoman, this is Mr. Wright, in keeping with what you had just discussed and the goals of the commissioners, there are 2 programs that are the next rank. Families in Crisis for $300,000, Veteran Homeless Program, and Rebuilding Together Greater Dallas, home modification. Even though that is home modification. My motion is that we move to the next, we skip those two and move to the next. In order,
Number 4.
number 4.
Why don't we just do?
Have we addressed Habitat for
ma'am.
Humanity, Smith County?
No, ma'am.
Because that's home modification.
Yes, ma'am.
It will be the next one up, and basically my motion is to move, to bypass these two and vote no, and to move to that one.
Well, we don't even have to. We can just bring up Habitat for Humanity, correct? Yeah,
Okay.
so is there someone that will put out there a motion for Habitat for Humanity, Smith County for $150,000?
So moved.
All right, so Mr. Wright is doing the motion for Habitat for Humanity, Smith County for $150,000. Is there a second? Mr. Archer's the second. Second the motion. Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Paul.
Madam Chairman, while I agree that, I guess we'll vote no. The Habitat for Humanity Smith County, I like that, but wasn't there a motion already out there that we would vote each one of these charities based on their rank order? And Habitat for Humanity of Smith County is ranked lower than both Rebuilding Together Greater Dallas, which is home modification, and Families in Crisis. So if we're bypassing those two,
Well, we can reject them though, and that's what we just,
well, you have to reject them by vote, Madam Chairman. You can't just reject them.
So there's
and that
one
was
more.
the motion out there?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then,
Do you want
go
to
ahead.
restate?
Yes, sure.
Let me restate the motion. This is Mr. Wright. My motion is that we bypass Families in Crisis and Rebuilding Together Greater Dallas to move to the next, and actually it's the next two in order that are both home modification.
Is there a second on that?
Archer will second.
All right, Mr. Archer seconds it. So we have now rejected Families in Crisis.
No.
Oh, any discussion?
Yeah, I guess I would ask Mr. Wright your reasoning for skipping it.
Two different reasons for each of those. I'll be happy to answer that. One, my concerns about the direction of Rebuilding Together Greater Dallas and where they are going in the future, and quite frankly, their capability of handling the grant and the grant responsibilities at this point in time. And I understand that I am privy to information that the board doesn't have. And the second is that Families in Crisis is a veteran homeless program, and the commissioners have made the priority home modification.
I will put out there that, again, I can only, for Rebuilding Together Greater Dallas, we have to go with the facts that are presented to us here in black and white. So the motion has been out there. Is there any further discussion? So let's go ahead and restate the motion one more time, Mr. Wright, so we all understand.
My motion is, as we had moved previously, we have been voting on the grants in this tranche in score order, and that the motion is that we bypass the two that scored fourth, so that we can move on to the two that have scored fifth. And you want me to state, it's bypassing Rebuilding Greater Dallas and Families in Crisis.
Okay, and I'll just put out there, again, what's in black and white. So with that said, all in favor? So there are 3 in favor of rejecting them, all not in favor of rejecting them. Okay. So it's 3 in favor, 5 not in favor of rejecting them, so the motion.
So I know we're off it seems like we've now gotten out of the favorite order, or maybe doing these in little groups. So we can get back in, but I would like to make a motion that we fund Families in Crisis for their requested $300,000.
I will second, Archer will second that.
All right, so Mr. Jeffries put out there Families in Crisis for $300,000, seconded by Mr. Archer. Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Ball.
Yes, Madam Chairman, Mr. Ball, I like that motion because that is the next in order of ones in Group 5 that have not been already approved. And so I think we could go forward with that one.
Yes, Mr. Jeffries.
I would just say, so I realize that it doesn't meet the commissioner's top priority, but it was an allowable grant in that category, and it's a fairly unique service there in Central Texas, which supports Fort Hood. So there's not a lot of these kind of services for the people right outside of Fort Hood.
And I have to concur with you, Mr. Jeffries, on that. You know, you're talking about uniqueness, you're talking about the actual area, which is another thing we have to keep in mind, gentlemen. And then what is actually located out there, which is a fact, Fort Hood area. So with that said, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? All right, so the motion passes 8-0. Families in Crisis for $300,000. All right, we have $500,000 available, correct, Ms. Zamora?
That is correct.
All right. Is there a motion out there? Yes, sir. Mr.
There's
Wright.
not, and I'm not going to make a motion for rebuilding Greater Dallas, but somebody else can because they're next in order.
Madam Chairman?
Yes,
Yes,
Mr.
Mr. Ball. I'll make a motion that we approve rebuilding Dallas, rebuilding together Greater Dallas for $250,000.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Hatfield. Is there any discussion? All right, with that said, all in favor of $250,000 for rebuilding Greater Dallas? All in favor? Okay, there's 3 in favor, all not in favor, 5 not in favor. The motion does not pass. All right, we still have $500,000. Next one.
Oh, this works perfectly. Okay, the next 2 up in order, it will be Central Texas Opportunities Incorporated, $300,000 request for home modification, and this is in the Panhandle and in the Alamo region. And the other is Habitat for Humanity of Smith County, $150,000 home modification in the East Texas region. And that total is $450,000. My motion is that we approve both.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Jeffries. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of Central Texas Opportunities for $300,000 and Habitat for Humanity Smith County for $150,000 for a total of $450,000? Oh, you guys were way fast. I can tell by your faces. The motion passes 8 yeas, 0 nays. All right, so that leaves $50,000. Yes, Mr. Wright.
Madam Chairwoman, I would put to Mr. Cato, the next grant in rank order is rebuilding Greater Austin. Sorry, my glasses on. For $75,000 home modification, do we have $25,000 we can approve?
Yes, as with the other categories, to fully fund, if you so right to recommend, we can cover that last part.
Then my motion is that we fully fund rebuilding together Austin.
All right, is that seconded by Mr. O'Reilly? Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Hall.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Ball, this is a high-risk operation. If you go to tab 9, you take a look at what that is. The issue being applicant may not be financially stable and does not have written policies and procedures. Executive Director salary on application is 75 versus 45K, which is what was on the 2015 IRS 990. So I'll leave that out there. There are 2 other qualified applicants in category 4 that we could take a look at, but this one is a high risk, and I just throw it out there.
Very good.
Is there any discussion, gentlemen?
Yeah, like the whole grant goes for his salary.
Roger that.
All right, let's go ahead and vote on it. For Rebuilding Together Austin, $75,000. All in favor? Any nays? Okay, so there are 0 yeas, 8 nays.
But thank you for that.
The motion fails. All right, next
Okay,
one.
we're getting into King Solomon time now, as the next 2 grants have the same score. Each is for 100,000, no, excuse me.
No, negative.
One is for 100,000, one is for 200,000. So since I get to make the motion, my motion is to split the vote on those. And I'm going to start with Habitat for Humanity in Longview. And I motion that we approve the 100,000 for home modification. And that is for East Texas.
All right, so Habitat for Humanity, Longview for 100,000, seconded by Mr. Jeffries. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. There's 8 ayes. Any nays? 0 nays. The motion passes for $100,000 for Habitat for Humanity, Longview. And,
And so
yeah.
they're out. Yeah.
We're overdoing
So,
the checkbook.
We're always going to give it the extra second to make sure the numbers match. All right, now, it is now about 10:53. Do we want to now go on to Veterans Mental Health?
Madam Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Archer.
I don't know whether this group would be aware, Perry might be, that in the Central Texas healthcare system, the Temple area VA, we do home modification. We've even built a couple homes in the area with the Temple VA. So we, with DAV, VFW American Legion, we have a coalition where we do home modifications. And the VA in Temple can lead the way on that. So I don't know whether the commission's aware that we're not overlapping, but there is groups out there that are helping veterans with home modification. So if we don't get this area done, there are other areas that we can work on. So wanted to kind of leave that on the table.
Well, thank you very much, and duly noted, Mr. Archer. All right, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the Housing for Texas Hero grant recommendations made by the committee to take to the commission for their approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second by Mr. Wright. Any additional discussion as duly noted by Mr. Archer? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There are 8 yeas. All opposed? No. Motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays for the Housing for Texas grants, and we recommended $550,000. All right, so with that, we would move on to number 6, Veterans Mental Health Grants. I would recommend to the committee that we go ahead and push on to discuss those. Are we okay with that? All right, then let me do the reading. This brings us to agenda item number 6, discussion and action on recommendations to the Commission for the 2017-2018 Veterans Mental Health Grants. As before, I'd like to review the grant review and approval process with the committee members and for the public. The Veterans Mental Health Grants that the committee recommends today will be presented to the Texas Veterans Commission at its quarterly meeting on May the 3rd, 2017. The Commission will review recommendations and make final decisions on awarding the 2017-2018 Veterans Mental Health Grants. The awarded grants will begin July the 1st, 2017 and end on June the 30th, 2018, a period of 1 year. The request for applications indicated we anticipated $2 million available for the 2017-2018 Veteran Mental Health grants. 2016-2017 Veterans Mental Health. Okay, correction.
It's the 17.
2017-2018 Veterans Mental Health Request for Applications, RFA, was posted to the Texas Veterans Commission website on August 29, 2016. An informational webinar was hosted on October 29, 2016 for potential applicants, and then a recording of the webinar was placed on the FVA website for on-demand access by all potential applicants. Applications were due November the 3rd, 2016. 43 applications were received, requesting a total of $8,969,000. 36 applications were deemed eligible for evaluation. Each eligible application was reviewed by 3 different staff members using the evaluation rubric that was also posted to the TVC website with application materials. Advisory committee members were provided with the evaluated application materials on early January 2017 in order to prepare for the application presentation meeting held on January 30th and 31st, 2017. When 23 applicants presented their veterans' mental health projects to our committee. Committee members' individual funding recommendations were submitted to the FVA staff on March 20th, 2017. Those recommendations have been rolled up and compiled and provided today to aid in our discussion. Again, as we begin our funding recommendation discussion, I'd like to reiterate to the Commission's guidance to the Advisory Committee with respect to the Veterans Mental Health Grants. This guidance includes 1. Developing recommendations that will ensure widespread distribution of grants across the state. 2. Giving priority to the funding the service categories of clinical counseling and peer-developed services. 3. Developing recommendations that encourage a diversity of services provided within the geographical regions. 4. Giving priority to the funding outstanding rated grant applications. 5. And fully funding applications whenever possible. Are there any committee member who has a conflict with any of the veterans' mental health applicants being considered for funding? Per the Commission's conflict of interest policy, we have all signed in acknowledgement. If you have a conflict with the applicant being considered for the housing, veterans' mental health funding, you must recuse yourself from the entire discussion and recommendation process. At this point, please turn to the second tab, labeled 1, for discussion aids for the veterans' mental health applicants. As a review, you should find the roll-up summary, an expanded roll-up analysis charts, a red flags list, and a list of all the eligible applications. The roll-up section of the analysis charts reflect projects receiving 4 or more recommendations for funding. So with that said, gentlemen, I'd like to give you a couple of minutes to review tab 1.
Madam Chair, this is Mr. Ball.
Yes, Mr. Ball.
While reviewing veterans' mental health, Sabine Valley Regional Mental Health, MR. Could that be listed as something else in the earlier package you sent us for review?
It's Sabine County Mental MHMR operating as Community Health Corps.
Thank you, sir.
There was one. It may have been just listed as Community Health Corps.
Yes, sir.
All right then, with that said, gentlemen, now let us begin with the 2017-2018 Veterans Mental Health Grant Discussion and Recommendations. So from line 4, line 5, and line 7, those would total out to be 2.4 million, and there's only available for 2 million. So with that said, I would like to recommend, put out for a motion, that we go ahead and vote line 7 in total, which would be,
That was 700,000 for line 7, 725,000 for line 5, and 975,000 for line 4's total.
the other thing that I would like to put out and highlight to members, what please again. In keeping with the guidance of the commission, tab number 3, page 5, I want to highlight, just to get it out there, that West Texas is shut out right now, or which means there's no vote for funding. So what I'll say is that keep that in mind as we begin discussing this all out.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Wright.
when you say West Texas has been shut out, do you mean for all the grants or just in this category?
No, just in this,
Thank you.
we're talking strictly this category.
Okay.
And I'll restate my comment that no one voted for funding.
No one recommended.
Recommended.
In the rollout.
No one recommended in the roll-up, okay, to totally clarify. All right, so as we vote our consciences, let's just make sure that we keep that in mind. Yes, Mr. Paul?
Now, the zero funded for West Texas does not include those charities that are above the line that do multiple regions. Statewide.
It includes ones that would do multiple regions that would include West Texas, but it does not include ones that would include West Texas in a statewide grant.
So if it's 1 through 8, it's not included.
If it covers statewide,
Gotcha.
that's not on the chart. Statewide is separate. You can see the statewide in there that is separate.
Yes, sir.
And Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Wright.
just to point out, there were only 2 unique West Texas grants, by the way. And Mr. Cato and I were emailing back and forth, and I had actually realized I had made a mistake and I should have voted one of the West Texas ones up. And my old eyes came across the wrong line when I took it up to rank it, so.
I would say
Yeah,
that
each
you discussed with just a concern, okay?
Absolutely.
So now we're bringing it out in a public meeting of what you probably would have reconsidered that is now out in a public meeting. All right, so with that said, is there a motion out there to vote line 7, which includes Centerpoint Incorporated, $100,000, Sabine Valley Regional MHMR Community Health Corps, $100,000, Family Support Services of Amarillo Incorporated, $200,000, Marriage Management Consultants for $100,000, Presbyterian Night Shelter, $200,000. Yes,
I would so move that we vote for number 7.
all right. Is there a second? Mr. O'Reilly seconds it. All right, so that would be for a total of $700,000. My discussion to my colleagues here is 2 of the charities are clinical counseling, and then the other 3 are peer delivered. So there seems to be a nice balance there on the priorities. I would just put that out to my colleagues. All right, if there's no other discussion, all in favor? Aye. We have 8 ayes. Any nays? 0 nays. The motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays. All right, I'd like to put out there for line 5 that we vote that one in total. Is there a motion for line 5, which would be a total of $725,000?
Archer would like to so move.
Mr. Archer so moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Wright. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Jeffers.
I'd like to discuss that one. So we know that we've left out West Texas, and we're already running out of money because of the amounts that are asked for in this. 2 are for clinical counseling services. 1, Vet Trip is for non-clinical supportive services, things like aromatherapy and all that, that may or may not be evidence-based treatments. If we separate these 3 out, then that money could be used for clinical counseling in another area of the state, maybe that's been underrepresented so far. So I'm going to vote no to the 3 because I'd like to start separating them out. I know that's going to make the process longer, but I think that's fair.
Actually, not really. Because we're pretty much out of money.
Well, and you know what, I don't care how long we have to stay here because this is about the veterans and this is about a lot of work that's been put in to get us to that point. So I think we owe it to everyone out there, the veterans out there. So with that said, the motion out there is to vote for all 3 charities for $725,000. All in favor? All right, there's 1 in favor. All not in favor? All right, so the motion fails. There was 1 in favor, 7 nays. So then I would like to put out there that now we go ahead and vote singularly from here on out.
And Madam Chairwoman, continuing our voting individually in rank order. The first one in rank order would be Catholic Charities in Central Texas, $400,000 for clinical counseling service, and I move that we approve that in full.
Seconded by Mr. Jeffries. So the motion out there, Catholic Charities for $400,000 of Central Texas. Is there any discussion on this? All right, and let's go ahead and vote on the motion for $400,000 Central or Catholic Charities of Central Texas. All in favor? Aye. There are 8 yeas. Any nays? 0 nays. The motion passes 8-0. All right, so that now leaves us $900,000. The next one?
The next organization in rank order would be Catholic Charities of Fort Worth, $75,000 for clinical counseling service. I motion that we approve that in full.
Is seconded by Mr. Cervantes. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, Catholic Charities Fort Worth Incorporated, $75,000. All in favor? 7 yeas. Any nays? 1 nay. The motion passes 7-1 for $75,000 for Catholic Charities Fort Worth. All right, the next one. So that leaves now $825,000, gentlemen. Next one in order there, Mr. Wright?
The next one in order would be Vet Trip for $250,000, and I'm motioning that we pass on that one.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second the motion.
Second on Mr. Paul. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor of bypassing Vet Trip for $250,000 on that motion? All right. So we have 6 yeas and nays. We have 2 nays. So the motion passes that we bypass Vet Trip. All right. The next one.
This will take us to section 4,
Correct.
and before I make a motion, We have, bear with me 1 second, sorry. Project Amistad in West Texas Region 2, clinical counseling service for $150,000, and Emergence Health Network, $500,000. I'm not sure I understand the difference. They've listed at $489,716, and I think we've rounded up just to $500,000 for clinical counseling service. Just as a point of information, since we were talking about West Texas, if the committee wants to motion to change our order slightly, to consider that from a regional standpoint, just FYI. They're just putting it out there.
Do we need a motion to change the order or just
Yes.
on a particular organization?
Yes, we would, because we've moved to do this in rank order when we've reached this point. So we would need to move to change kind of our procedure for the day, if you will.
I move that we change our procedure for the day and vote on individual organizations until we're clear of the veterans' mental health.
Is there a second on that? Seconded by Mr. Hatfield. So we're going to change our order for the day. We're going to, from here on out, on this particular one anyway, we're going to vote by organization. All right, any discussion?
Yes,
Yes, Mr. Paul.
Okay. I understand the motion completely, and I just want to make sure that everybody's clear. So, the way we're heading with this is, we're gonna focus on West Texas, and they're in category 2. Only 2 of 9 people voted for them, and we're gonna bypass, potentially, all the charities in group 4, and all the charities in group 3 to get to those 2. I just don't think that's a very good way to attack it, because of the 9 people, we almost have a majority of folks voting in category 4, and we're going to bypass 4 and 3 to go down the way it's leaning to a couple of categories in 2. Where only 2 of 9 people voted for them.
You know, Mr. Ball, I noted what you're saying,
Okay.
and noted that we all as committee members heard, the public come up and do their 3-minute presentations, plus we all went back to our homes and read about these organizations and their applications. And, but I also think that it's important for us that there are sometimes when you get out in these meetings that other facts come out. And there'll be a time before we adjourn that we can then discuss helpful hints to then become more informed as committee members before we come here. But the other thing is, we do have to go to the commission and support and defend our recommendations. And then, as the read-in had it, there are specific items that are parameters that the committee wants us to look at. So I would say that, while noted, there are other responsibilities that we must attend to with this. Yes, Mr. Hatfield.
Mr. Hatfield, this is one of the issues that we have because we only had $2 million that we could give to the nonprofits. And we had requests for $7,288,000. And so what happens with this, when you get down to this 5, 4, and 3, it's kind of a tough decision for all of us because we're just trying to figure out how to maybe put it in different regions. That we do have a responsibility to the commission to try to do that. So I guess I'm looking at the 5, 4, and 3 in this case. We may not be as far apart as we think. We probably, I don't know any other way to take care of it.
All good discussion, Madam Chairman. I just brought it up because we are bypassing some charities that people thought were better suited for the money, and it is only one of the priorities. There are multiple priorities that always compete, and so I believe everybody on the board has taken a look at those priorities and placed them as they see best fit for when they did their vote. But I'm ready to vote on the motion.
If I could just add maybe one thing to that. So this motion is just to separate these out, although, you know, we've discussed some of the West Texas charities. Nothing in the motion requires that we skip anybody. So I think at this point, then we can just look at whoever wants to make a motion can motion for any of the charities above or below the two that have been brought out.
Right, and, right, I think now we'll just go with the motions. We'll put them all out there, you know, whoever wants to, you know, make a motion for a charity, and then we'll discuss it out from there. Right, so with that, with motion, restate motion so everyone's clear.
So all we're voting on now, or this motion, is to change the order we decided on earlier today and to vote on charities individually if a committee member brings them up.
Right. And then is there a second to that? Who seconded that motion?
I'll second that.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
Mr. Hatfield that seconded it. All right. So all in favor of voting each charity or how it comes out, we're changing our order and we're, however the motion comes out for the rest of the day. All in favor? All right, so we have 6 in favor, all not in favor, 2, the motion passes. So now we'll go by individual charity. And is there one motion out on the floor? Yes, Mr.
Madam Chairwoman, I would like to make a motion that we approve Samaritan Center Counseling and Pastoral Care for $500,000. This is clinical counseling, and it covers regions 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And that's the biggest reason that I'm motioning that larger figure for that amount, which will cover 830 veterans.
I would second that motion. Go ahead, Mr. Rollins.
Second.
All right, and for the clarification of all members, the regions, would that be on the west side of Texas?
That leaves out the Panhandle and West Texas.
It's like north, central, east.
It leaves out.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any discussion on that? All right, then, all in favor of the Samaritan Center for Counseling and Pastoral Care, $500,000. Okay, all in favor is 8 yeas, any nays? 0 nays, the motion passes for $500,000, Samaritan Center for Counseling and Pastoral Care.
Madam Chairwoman, just
Yes.
as a point of information, that also happened to be the #1 ranked nonprofit in that category.
All right. Is there another, okay, so that leaves $325,000. Is there a motion out there? Yes, Mr. Perry. Or Jeffries.
I'd like to make a motion that the Dallas County Community Supervision and Corrections Department receive $150,000 for clinical counseling services.
Second.
All right, so there's a motion out there for the Dallas County Community Supervision and Corrections Department for $150,000, seconded by Mr. Wright. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? We have 5 in favor, all not in favor. We have 3 not in favor. The motion passes. Dallas County Community Supervision and Corrections Department for $150,000. Is there, I'd like to put a motion out there for Charlie's Place Recovery Center for $100,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wright. Any discussion?
And just a quick point of information again. Number 3 in that category was Texas National Guard. And at this point, I think they've done well by us. Again, not a reflection of them, simply a reflection of their fundraising. So this would be number 4. There is one that is number 2, and we'll discuss that afterwards.
Okay, but we're going by motions and...
No. You said, was there any discussion, ma'am?
Okay, well, and thank you, duly noted. Okay, so with that said, there's All in favor of Charlie's Place Recovery Center for $100,000? We have 7 yeas. Do we have any nays? We have 1 nay, so motion passes for Charlie's Place Recovery Center for $100,000. Okay, that leaves available.
And Madam Chairwoman, with our last $75,000,
$75,000, yes.
I would like to motion that the Austin Dog Alliance requesting a grant of $75,000, which happened to be voted number 2 in that category. They're Hounds for Heroes. This is, though, non-clinical supportive services serving the Central Texas region.
Is there a second to the Austin Dog Alliance? All right, Mr. Archer seconds. Is there any discussion? Yes, Mr. Jeffries?
Well, I'd just like to point out now that we probably do have one last bite at the apple, and that if we are going to pick up anything in West Texas, this would be the time to do it. And I certainly love my dogs and the things that dogs can do for vets, but it is non-clinical. And although the amount fits neatly, we could have that last bite if we don't vote for this one. So,
Did we
it's just my thoughts
West
on it.
Texas? I'm sorry, I screwed up. I thought we'd done that. My bad.
Okay, so what we have the motion out, we have to vote for it. So the all in favor of the Austin Dog Alliance for $75,000, all in favor? All right, we have 1 in favor. All not in favor of the Austin Dog Alliance? 7. Motion fails.
I can't believe I'm on record against the dogs.
Okay, is there another motion out there? Go ahead, Mr. Ball.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Ball, I make a motion that we approve the Joyful Horse Project for $100,000. Peer delivery services for Region 3, the Alamo region, and for the Central Texas region.
Is there a second out there? Okay, there's no second, so the motion fails. Is there another motion out there?
And another point of information, if I may ask a question, am I correct to understand that Project Amistad was not approved previously?
No one's
think
voted on
it was.
it.
No,
Okay.
never voted.
Okay, then I would like to make a motion that we approve Project Amistad for $150,000, assuming we can go that far over budget. Clinical counseling services in West Texas.
Second.
Okay, so the motion out there by Mr. Wright is for Project Amistad for $150,000, seconded by Mr. Hatfield. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of $150,000 for Project Amistad? Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor. Nays? We have 2 nays. The motion passes 6-2, $150,000 for Project Amistad. And that takes care of veterans' mental health. So at this time, I would like to entertain the motion to approve veterans' mental health grant recommendations made by the committee to take to the commission for their approval. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. O'Reilly. Is there any additional discussion? All those in favor? We do have 8 yeas, and all opposed, we have 0. The motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays. All right, gentlemen, so we have Veterans Treatment Court grants. It is now 11:27. Do you want to break for lunch? Because this would make number 7 on the agenda, and then we have, I guess, 3 or 4 short ones after that on the agenda. Would you like to press forward?
Press.
Yes.
Press.
Yes, Mr. Savant.
Can I have 2 minutes?
Oh, great. You want to break? You know what? Okay, so that's the official, thank you, Mr. Savant. All right, so let's do this, gentlemen. It's now 11:27. 10:47 by the official clock. Why don't we come back at 11:45?
Oh, not that.
Well, let's kind of sum people. So with that, we will take a break until 11:45 and then take up number 7. And go to our, on our agenda, number 7, which would be the discussion or action on recommendations to the Commission for FBA 2017-2018 Veterans Treatment Corps grants. Are we good, Ms. Zamora? Are you ready to go?
Yes, we are ready.
Zavon. I'm sorry.
That's
All right.
And sir, are you good to go on the left? Okay. I'm sorry.
okay.
I did that yesterday at work. I know.
Real simple.
Yeah, I know. I need those signs, but they don't have signs. I am so sorry.
I'll have a real business card.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so with that, that brings us to agenda item number 7, discussion and action on recommendations to the Commission for the 2017-2018 Veterans Treatment Corps grant. As before, I'd like to review the grant review and approval process with committee members for the public. The Veterans Treatment Corps grants that the committee recommends today will be presented to the Texas Veterans Commission at its quarterly meeting on May the 3rd, 2017. The commission will review recommendations, make final decisions on awarding the 2017-2018 Veterans Treatment Corps grants. The awarded grants will begin July the 1st, 2017 and end on June the 30th, 2018, a period of 1 year. The request for applications indicated we anticipated $1.5 million available for the 2017-2018 Veterans Treatment Corps grants. The 2017-2018 Veterans Treatment Corps request for applications, RFA, was posted to the Texas Veterans Commission website on August 29, 2016. An informational webinar was hosted on October 30th, 2016 for potential applicants and then placed on the FBA website for an on-demand access by all potential applicants. Applications were due November the 3rd, 2016. 17 applications were received and requesting a total of $2,360,000. 15 applications were deemed eligible for evaluation. Each eligible application was reviewed by 3 different staff members using the evaluation rubric that was also posted to the TVC website with application materials. Advisory committee members were provided with the evaluated application materials in early January 2017 in order to prepare for the application presentation meeting held on January 30th and 31st, 2017. When 9 applicants presented their Veterans Treatment Corps projects to our committee, committee members' individual funding recommendations were submitted to the FBA staff on March the 20th, 2017. Those recommendations have been rolled up and compiled and provided today to aid in our discussion. Again, as we begin our funding recommendation discussion, I would like to reiterate the Commission's guidance to the Advisory Committee with respect to the Veterans Treatment Corps grants. This guidance includes 1. Developing recommendations that will ensure widespread distribution of grants across the state. 2. Giving priority to funding to outstanding rated grant applications. And 3. Fully funding applications whenever possible. Is there any committee member who has a conflict with any of the Veterans Treatment Corps applicants being considered for funding? Okay. Per the Commission's conflict of interest policy, we all have signed an acknowledgement. If you have a conflict with an applicant being considered for the Veterans Treatment Corps funding, you must recuse yourself from the entire discussion and recommendation process. At this point, please turn to the second tab labeled 6 for discussion aids for the Veterans Treatment Corps applicants. As a review, you should find a roll-up summary, an expanded roll-up analysis charts, and a list of all eligible applications. There is not a red flags list, as there were no issues of concern with this group of applications. The roll-up section of the analysis charts reflect the projects receiving 5 or more recommendations for funding. So I'll go ahead and give you gentlemen a couple minutes to review tab 6.
Madam Chairman?
Yes,
I'd like
Mr.
to
Wright.
ask Mr. Cato a question. How much latitude do we have to go over in this category?
We can fund the one additional, as we've done before in this category, so it's going to be one of those that take a look to see where we go. What I had was above the line was through 5, and the total through 5 was 1.675. So keeping with everything else, kind of that one extra over 1.5.
So we could do the through 5?
That's
That's too far.
That's too far, and it's not keeping with the way we've done all the other ones as well.
All right then, with that, gentlemen, now let us begin the 2017-2018 Veterans Treatment Court Grant Discussion and Recommendations. So the last motion we had out there that we were going to do these individually for the rest of the day. Now, you can go back and do it by line again if we want.
Madam Chairwoman, I motion that we go back to doing these in rank order.
And seconded by Mr. Hatfield. All right, all in favor of the motion, will we do it back in, okay? And all in, any nays? All right, motion passes. Mr. Wright made the motion, Mr. Hatfield seconded, sir. All right, so on line number 8, Bear County for $200,000, Nueces County Community Supervision and Corrections Department for $50,000, so that'd be a total of $250,000. Is there a motion out there for line 8?
Madam Chairman, Mr. Ball, I'll make a motion that we approve all of line 8, which includes Bear County for $200,000 and Nueces County for $50,000.
And seconded by Mr. Jeffries. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion? We have 8 yeas. Do we have any nays? We have 0 nays. Motion passes for Bear County, $200,000. Nueces County Community Supervision and Corrections Department, $50,000. For $250,000, we have available $1.25 million. Okay, line 7. Yes, Mr. Ball.
Madam Chairman, I would make another motion that we would include all of line 7, which includes Collin County for $150,000, Dallas County Community Supervision and Correction Department for $250,000, Galveston County for $150,000, Montgomery County for $100,000, and that would conclude all of line 7 now.
All right, is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Cervantes. So line 7 total was $650,000, gentlemen. All right, with that, is there any discussion? Okay, with that said, all in favor of funding line 7? I have 8 yeas and 0 nays. The motion passes with 8 yeas, 0 nays for Collin County, $150,000, Dallas County Community Supervision and Correction Department, $250,000, Galveston County, $150,000, Montgomery County, $100,000. All right, line 6. Do I have a motion for line 6? Mr. Ball.
And this seems to be a run-on sentence, but I would make a motion for all of line 6 to be approved. That includes Comal County for $75,000, El Paso County for $200,000, and Travis County for $50,000.
All right, is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Jeffries. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 8 yeas, 0 nays. The motion passes. For line 6, So we have now available $275,000. And with that said, because we already know the figure, that we will have to then put out a motion to discuss these and vote for these individually.
I'll let our math major.
Madam Chairman, I motion that we take these in order that they are ranked within their category.
All right, is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Paul. Any discussion? All right, so for line 5, we're going to take them in order as ranked. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. All in favor? We have 8 yeas. Any nays to this? All right, motion passes. We will now vote for line 5 in rank order.
Madam Chairwoman, another point of information. The 2 top ranked grants, one is for $20,000, that is Harris County, and one is for Webb County for $300,000. I will let the body mull on that as we are up against our limit. And if I could follow up with that, I'm sorry. In that particular category, we have a grant request also for Hayes County of $100,000, Williamson's County for $30,000, so we could fund Webb County, or we could fund basically the other 3. I'm sorry, that was the point that I was trying to drive at. I didn't fully clarify that.
Madam Chairman, Mr. Ball.
Yes, Mr. Ball.
Would like to ask Mr. Cato, because they are ranked order, and that's how we are voting them. Since there are 2 that are tied, according to Mr. Wright, that's Webb County and Harris County, for a total of 320, which would put us 45,000 over our limit. My question to Mr. Cato is, can the state handle that?
In keeping with what we've done with the other grant programs, I understand your question, and I sympathize with the decision, but we've been doing it, is we
Right.
fund the next project, so to try to get fully funding.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Webb County 406 District Court Veterans Court Program for $300,000.
I'll second.
But it was for also Harris County, because they're both tied, correct?
No, ma'am, there's no motion on the floor right now that I'm aware of.
Okay, so just Webb County for $300,000.
Yes,
Seconded
Madam
by
Chairman.
Mr. Jeffrey. Any discussion?
I think I understand Mr. Ball's reasoning. We can only do one of these. It is one of the 2 next in order, and there has been other money go to Harris, so, and I don't think we've sent much out to Webb. So if we follow our procedure and top us off, we'll be done.
Mr. Wright, Mr. Hatfield?
I will not support the motion as it stands, mainly because the unit cost is a little bit too high. And I think sometimes we need to try to have them suggested to have more volunteers to help them with the work.
You know, Mr. Hatfield, I think this is an amount based on, most of these came up and discussed they had their 3-minute presentation also with their write-ups, the application write-up. I just don't feel comfortable, and I'm not going to have a tough time supporting this motion favorably on 300,000. I think we've seen some very unique situations where these veterans treatment courts have gotten a lot of support out there, and I just think 300,000 is too much. That's my opinion. Any further discussion? All right, then with that said, all those in favor of Webb County 406 District Court Veterans Court Treatment Program for $300,000? All right, we have 2 in favor, all not in favor. We have 4, 5 not in favor, so the motion, yes, Mr.
And I'm just an official abstaining
You're abstaining?
because I see the issue on both sides, but I don't know how to split that baby, as King Solomon would say.
Okay, all right. So the motion fails. There are 2 in favor, 5 nays, 1 abstention. All right, next one. Motion. So it'd be Hayes County, is that correct?
Harris County, actually.
Harris County?
The next.
All right, so we have still $275,000 available. Is there a motion out there for Harris County?
I'll move that we recommend Harris County Community Supervision and Corrections Department be recommended for a grant of $20,000. Second.
Seconded by Mr. O'Reilly. Okay, Mr. Jeffries has a motion out there for $20,000 for Harris County, seconded by Mr. O'Reilly. Any discussion?
Madam Chairman.
Yes, Mr. O'Reilly.
I will point out that this is for the misdemeanor veteran treatment court, and most of the veteran treatment courts has been dealing with more serious felonies. I believe this is the one that was talking about even taking this down as far as traffic tickets, just as another point of information for the body.
You know, I don't remember the application, but I kind of wonder, such a minute amount of $20,000. Yes, could you read the application, because thank you. For my edification, does anyone else want the edification? All right, Mr. Archer's shaking his head.
While he's pulling that up, I'd like to say that I appreciate organizations that don't just solely depend on these grants to fund their whole program, but maybe see them as part of a package that they assemble for funding. So, when they ask for smaller amounts, it makes it easier for us to approve that and fit them into stacks. And it makes it seem like if the entire organization's money is not coming from FEA, maybe they'll be more resilient. So I don't think that asking for a small amount is necessarily a bad thing.
Duly noted, and I appreciate that comment, because that now puts me in thinking in another way. Yes, Mr. Hatfield.
Mr. Hatfield, I kind of looked at it the same way, and some of these nonprofits like this, they have to start somewhere, and then maybe I looked at it thinking maybe the next year, if this all works well, then they may come back and be at a higher amount. The smaller amount, I thought about it, but I thought this may be a start for them.
So with that said, I personally don't need to view the application. Is there someone else that would like to view it? Okay.
It's here in a second.
But Charlie, did you pull it up?
I got it here in a second.
Yeah,
It's just a computer skills test.
No, it's not. It's a computer. It's a loading
What would you like to know?
speed loading. I was just going to review the project description. I've got it here.
I know I asked for it. I'm okay with it now after hearing the committee's deliberation on it.
It's there for you.
I'm okay. Is there anyone else that would like to hear? Okay. Then with that said, let's go ahead and all those in favor of $20,000 for Harris County Community Supervision and Corrections Department? Okay, we have 8 yeas, 0 nays. Motion passes. Okay, the next one, please. So that leaves $255,000.
In rank order, the next up is Hayes County for $100,000 for their veterans. It is Hayes County Veteran Treatment Court Enhancement Projects. And my motion is that we approve that in total.
Okay, Mr. Wright put the motion out. Mr. Archer seconded the motion for $100,000 for Hayes Community. Is there any discussion? Mr. Ball?
No, ma'am, I'm good.
You're good? All right. All right, all in favor of $100,000 for Hayes County? I see 8 yeas. Any nays? 0 nays. The motion passes. Hayes County for $100,000 Veterans Treatment Court. All right, next one, sir.
Last one in category 5 will be Williamson County for their Williamson County Rehabilitative Rhythm and Life Planning Project for $30,000. My recommendation is that we approve that in full.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Ball. Any discussion? All right, then with that said, all in favor of $30,000 for Williamson County? We have 8 yeas. Any nays? 0 nays? Motion passes. All right, the next one. So now we're down to $125,000.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Ball?
I'd like to make a motion to revisit before we drop down to a lower category where not as many of the board members voted for it, to relook Webb County 406 District Court Veterans Court Program for $300,000. I know that puts us over our limit, but the only 2 options that are left on the table are in the lesser category, one for $300,000 and one for $400,000. So my motion is to vote approval for Webb County 406 District Court for $300,000.
Seconded by Mr. Jeffries. So Mr. Ball is putting the motion out there for the Webb County 406 District Court Veterans Court Program, seconded by Mr. Jeffries. Any discussion? Yes,
Going back to, I mean, it just seems that for all the reasons we mentioned when it first came up, I mean, can we lower the amount rather than going for the full 300,000?
And that would have been my question, sir, is would you accept a friendly amendment to award the balance of what we have left to Webb County?
Could we, this may be the point, could we look at the application, because some of these vet court applications are to maybe hire a particular staff or pay for a particular project, that if they don't get the whole $300,000, they can't do it. On other ones, it's for like financial assistance for veterans that are coming through, so they could take, it might be easier for them to take a lesser amount. I guess I would have to ask if it's all right to revisit the application before we finish.
I would also say that one of the priorities, though, is to fund in total.
Yes.
So I'm not opposed to a partial fund. I'm not opposed to looking at it, but I'm also here to say that the board is wanting to fully fund.
Yes.
So I think at that, because we, like I had my remarks initially on when we were voting for this, that I think that now it's really fair to really take a look at the application and decide if it's fully funding or a friendly amendment to reduce funding.
Yes, it seems kind of sideways the way the committee is backed into it. But per the way we've been doing this, we can fully fund the last application that you guys put forward.
I think we should stick with the full one.
Well, let's vote on the amendment. I mean, let's vote on the
Vote on it. We got a motion and a second.
Yeah, we were
Based
based
on that
discussion.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so the question is, does anyone want to look at the application? Because we're still in the discussion thing.
They have it.
I've got it here as well.
I don't need to at this moment.
Any other committee members? Let me just take a look.
I can read it to you if you'd like.
So for other committee members, they have client services of $47,606, and that pays for getting health records, psychological evaluations, mental health and substance abuse treatment, assessments as far as how much they report in data collection. And as far as salaries and fringe benefits go, the total for that is $242,000. So that is for the salaries as well as insurance and benefits. So $47,000 going to client services and $240,000 about for salary for the employees.
So basically, they need the money to hire people and to give that out, otherwise they're not going to have a treatment court.
You're paying 100% of the salaries for the program director, the case manager, and a family counselor. Oh, and then also a urinalysis technician, which is also the case manager as well.
Yes, Mr.
All good information, and appreciate it. I would submit that all the applications that we are voting on or not voting on have been presented, have been verified by the staff as a quality application, so I'm not so sure that it has a whole lot of bearing because they've already been vetted and approved.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor of Webb County 406 District Court Veterans Court Program for $300,000? All in favor? Okay, we have 7 in favor. Any nays? We have 1 nay, 0 abstentions. Motion passes. For $300,000 for Webb County 406 District Veterans Court Program. So that takes care of Veterans Treatment Court. So with that said, is there a motion to recommend funding of all the 2017-2000 Veterans Treatment Court applications as presented?
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
Mr. Wright again, so moved.
Second?
Okay, seconded by Mr. Wright, and motion by, motion presented by Mr. Wright and seconded by Mr. Jeffers. Is there any additional discussion? Okay, all those in favor? We have 8 yeas. Any nays? 0 nays. Motion passes, 8 yeas, 0 nays. Okay, now we'll move on to agenda discussion number 8. Agenda item number 8. At our last meeting, Mr. Hatfield presented several suggestions on determining the size of grant awards for each grant program and recommended the formation of a subcommittee. After consultation with the TVC General Counsel, the subcommittee is permissible, but the size is limited to less than a quorum of a full advisory committee. A subcommittee is permitted to meet and discuss the topic for which it was formed and should present its discussions and recommendations to the full advisory committee in the next public meeting after it concludes its business. I would like to invite any discussion or recommendations our committee might like to make with respect to forming a subcommittee. Mr. Wright.
Mr. Wright, I thought it was a terrific idea when it was first presented and would like to volunteer to be part of that subcommittee.
Any other discussion? Mr. Hatfield.
Mr. Hatfield, I think everybody knows the reason why I want this is because when we have a large amount of money recommended and a small amount to give out, we're leaving out a lot of good nonprofits. And I know that hurts each one of us. And so I think it would be good to have the committee of 3 to discuss these issues, and maybe come out with at least 1 or 2 or 3 solutions as how to do that. And I would think then they would come back to this committee and have a discussion with you all, and then you all decide if you want to move it on to the Texas Workforce Commission. I'm sorry, Texas Veterans Commission. And I would volunteer to be on it also.
This is Mr. Ball. What kind of recommendations would it be made? You can't change the amount of money that's going to be offered, and you can't reduce the number of applicants that are out there, can we?
Well, I believe in my study of this, there are 2 or 3 things that affect it. One is that these numbers that we have been given came off of $5 million in grant money. And I believe they received the amount of grant money ahead of time. So you can put together a spreadsheet that says if the amount, say it's only $2 million, you might go by a 10% rule and say then the maximum somebody can give would be $200,000, and that spreads the money out. And what you're doing there, yes, you are limiting how much they can request, but you've already set that block in there. And what we would be doing is recommending, well, whoever does it would be recommended to this committee to see if they want to recommend it to the Veterans Commission. So they would be the ones that would decide it. And it's just a matter of, so if you've got $2 million and you've got a grant of $500,000, take it up.
True statement. So what we're saying is that the commission knows before they open the window for grant applications how much is going to be in each category, and therefore when the window opens for grant applications, as part of the directions, you would say, for this category, no grants will be accepted above X amount limit if you agree to subcommittee's recommendations, whatever they may be.
The commission approves the anticipated amounts available as published in the request for applications. And they also approve what's in the request for applications, which are the check boxes that we have in there for amount requested. So yes, if they want to change that when we go through the RFA approval process, they can do that. So what we're talking about is future stuff, not what we've done anything today.
Right.
And does that answer your question?
Yes.
You know, Mr. Wright and Mr. Hatfield, I understand where you're coming from, but I think what it doesn't account for when we're doing this is kind of like what we just went over on an application, is the inflation or deflation of salaries and what the project itself is trying to accomplish. And I think my feeling is when we start putting those kind of constraints, you know, that no application will be accepted for this amount, when actually we already have that tier. That tier is 500,000, just depending on, or whatever, you know, the highest tier is always, at this point, is going to be 500,000. That I think, just thinking about our deliberations today, while we might be able to spread the money around a little more, I think we're also handcuffing. My opinion, we're handcuffing. And then, you know, when you start talking about it regionally and where it should all be going, I just see, in my opinion, while the heart and the desire are in the right place, I don't think we'll accomplish more of what we really wanted to. Yes, sir.
No, I appreciate those comments, and I understand them. The issue becomes, all of these monies were based upon $5 million, and what we would all like to have is $5 million, and then we wouldn't have a problem. As long as we have $5 million or more, it's not a problem at all. It's when we get down below that $5 million mark, and maybe $4 million isn't even enough to worry about. I'm just saying, I'd like to put together a group of 3 to throw the ideas around. They're not going to pass anything. They've got to come to you.
Oh, I know that, sir, and it will be back in a public meeting, but I just, I think when we start doing that, we're cutting out more than we think we're including, based on what I've put out to y'all. Plus, if you take a minute to think about our deliberations today, and then at that, we do have, or the commission has the flexibility of funding the last project. So like this last one, what do we exceed? It was like over 125,000 more?
175,000.
Oh, 175, okay. Thank you, Mrs. Zavala. It allows that flexibility. Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Perry.
I don't want to cut you off, but I think that we've been really lucky this new feature that Mr. Cato has brought by popping us up to the next application amount. That's great, but that may not always be around, and I think that it's worthwhile to put together a committee to at least study it and make a recommendation. Maybe the recommendation becomes no change, but I think that as lottery monies come and go, and car registration monies come or go, or the state legislature could look at this money in another way. We could be faced at some point with only $3 million to hand out and no applications below 500,000, and then who we have to pick winners and losers. So I think considering the process isn't wrong. First, whatever suggestion the subcommittee comes up with would have to be voted on by this whole committee before it goes forward to the commission. And then the commission would also have to agree to it. They may have some knowledge that we don't know about, how much money is in the bank or something like that. So I think just as far as the commission, because it is an issue, the subcommittee, because it is an issue we have all wrestled with, I think that the studying and make a recommendation is a good idea.
Is there any more discussion out there? All right, then, is there a motion to form a subcommittee to craft a recommendation for the commission pertaining to the size of individual grant awards? Yes,
Mr.
Mr.
Actor, I
Hatfield.
so move.
All right, Mr. Hatfield, seconded by Mr. Bright. All right, and no additional discussion? All those in favor? Okay, so there are 6 in favor. All those not in favor? Two nays. Then the motion passes with 6 yeas, 2 nays. And it was, okay, so now I need to get some volunteers, and it can't be any more than 4 members because quorum is 5, so it has to be 4. So do I have any volunteers? All right, Mr. Hatfield, Mr. Wright, Mr. Archer. Do we need 4? No, okay. Then there'll be Mr. Archer, Mr. Hatfield, and Mr. Wright that will form that subcommittee to pertaining to the size of individual grant awards. So then at our next meeting, we potentially could get a report. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to agenda item number 9. Several committee members commented on how much the format of the last application presentation meeting helped them gain useful information on the projects in this cycle of applications. Next, I'd like to invite any discussion or recommendations our committee would like to make that the staff can pass on to future applicants regarding best practices and helpful hints for the application presentation meeting that could make it even more effective for both applicants and committee members. Yes,
Mr. Wright. One recommendation, and I know this has to be worded more subtly than I will word it, but to remind our speakers when they come, we all love veterans. We're all supporting veterans. This is not a Kiwanis or a Rotary meeting. Target the discussion to the audience. I know of one group last time that didn't do that very well, and I think it's one reason they didn't get voted on very well. They weren't explaining why they were unique in the space. And I will leave that up to Mr. Cato's excellent diplomacy skills to say that in a nice manner.
All right, duly noted. Mr. Jeffries.
We can just give suggestions here. My first suggestion would be don't come. I realize it's a public meeting, but in almost no cases has anybody convinced me to go another way. And because of the format, we don't always associate the presentation with the recommendation. They're not linked together, and I think people should understand that. 2, if you're going to come here, make an ask. Too many people spend their whole time doing an introduction or quoting us some statistic that I think most of us are familiar with, and they don't actually tell us how much money they want or what size grant they need and what they're going to do with it. I mean, a lot of these people don't. They come in and they say a lot of good things. 3, I think that we need to search, and I know you are, continue to search for a way to make it more fair. So if we've had problems with some organizations or not getting a lot of grants from certain areas of the state, that could be because it's not easy for people to travel here, stay in hotels and go back, especially if you're a small nonprofit at a distance. So the I-35 corridor people have an advantage there. And then if you are going to come, just bring a very small number of people, because you only have 3 minutes, and the introductions often take up the whole presentation time. Or we've seen that before. By the time they got done introducing everybody, the 3 minutes was up, and they never get around to the actual presentation. And then maybe lastly, the material you bring, I think our capability is big, but our capacity for looking at all this material, I had a foot-high stack of books and pamphlets and everything else after the last one, and I actually read very little of it because I'm going to spend my time with the application and with the financials and the resumes and all that kind of stuff. So if they put as much effort into their application as they do those flyers and books they bring, they're fine. It's much like a congressional staffer will tell you, if you bring them a thing on an advocacy visit, 2 pages is about as big a piece of information as people are going to retain. Because if you give me a whole book, as soon as the thing's over, I'm just setting it aside and I'm going to your application. So those are my suggestions. I feel so much better for having said that.
Thank you, Mr. Jeffries. Mr. Wright.
Madam Chairwoman, I'm going to dovetail a little bit on what Mr. Perry said, Mr. Jeffries said, excuse me, a little too familiar, but I wanted to commend you, ma'am. The way you handled the veterans who came when they spoke, the dignity and respect was, I was really impressed with your leadership. So thank you very much for that. You made all of us feel good.
That was great.
Thank you. You know, I have to dovetail on Mr. Jeffries. The books and, I mean, some of these pamphlets and that were very expensive. And I just didn't have the time. I just had a second to look at it, not because I'm so busy here, but, and a couple of the books I took home, and I'll be honest with you, they went in the corner and they're still sitting in the same corner. So I think they're wasting their resources. Now, while you just gave me a kudo on veterans, you know, I love that one saying, you know, tell me what this money means to you and what it's helped you. And I'll never forget, it was one of the last presentations. A gentleman said, look, you've heard the same thing. And we were. We're like, you know, okay, line and verse. And he says, let me tell you how unique I am. And you know what? I was going like this, you know, and then I reread his application. And you know what, at the end of the day, I don't even know if we funded the man, but that gentleman really just, I think he was done in, what, 45 seconds? What else could he say? It just, here's the points. So I would strongly recommend in the webinar that you know, Sergeant Joe Friday, just the facts, man, and what it means, because we've already read the background. Anything else?
And Madam Chair, if I can
Yes.
provide comment, we do allow organizations to submit PowerPoints or videos or anything that they want in place of them coming to the meeting as well. So they're given the opportunity whether they take that or not.
Has that happened?
Yes, previously we have had very few, but
Yeah, I'm
some.
trying to think of it.
We've seen a video from somebody.
Exactly. Yeah, it wasn't this last one. It was maybe another solicitation before.
That was in the, I think it was. Yes, Mr. Hatfield. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Hatfield, I would concur with what's being said. I'll go along another line though. I actually don't need more than a 3-page summary, executive summary is all I need. If they put their information in there, then that's enough for me. And I really don't need all the pictures and all of that. And it's a waste of paper and all of that. I just soon have it all electronic.
All right, any other discussion? All right, okay, so we'll move on to agenda item number 10 that has to do with our next meeting. I would like to ask Mr. Cato to tell us about the next grant series coming up.
Thank you. We expect the request for applications for 2018-2019 grant series. General Assistance, Housing Protects Us Heroes, Mental Health, and Veterans Treatment Court to open once again in late August 2017. Have a due date sometime in late October, early November 2017. And then we anticipate the applications being available for this committee's review once again starting after the holidays in January. I will make a weak excuse right up front that has to do with operations in FEA. Our lease runs out in our current location, and we will be moving offices end of October, beginning of November. So there may be we may get them to you just a little bit later because we've got an awful lot going on. Yeah, I told you it was a weak excuse.
Very weak.
I told you it was a weak excuse. So just so you know, but we will make every effort to get you the same materials as early in January as we possibly can, just like we've done We do need at least one advisory committee member to present your recommendations that you did today to the Texas Veterans Commission meeting at their May 3rd meeting. You all are certainly welcome to come, but it is a public meeting, so if you want to handle that one.
I was going to do it, and certainly any of my other colleagues on here, please, Mr. Wright, I don't know, Mr. Hatfield, you know,
What's the date?
May
May 3rd.
3rd at 9 in the morning, correct?
I will probably be there, Mr. Hatfield, I'll probably be there to support whoever it is.
Awesome.
I'll try to be here.
All right, so right now, I'll present, and then Mr. Jeffries and Mr. Hatfield. And if for some odd reason life hits me, or, you know, I get sent somewhere, then I know the other two gentlemen. Of course, I will defer to my vice chairman first, Mr. Wright, if,
I will more than likely be there, but
all right,
I'm fine with one of these two esteemed gentlemen speaking.
okay. All right, well, just to let you know, though. All right. Yes, sir.
So, let's see, pending any changes or revisions based on information that's provided to staff with regard to the grant review process, don't never know if anything's going to change. Our next required advisory committee meeting would be an application presentation meeting, tentatively scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday, January 29th and 30th, 2018. Way out there, I got it. As always, the chair can call the meeting as needed, and the FEA staff stands ready to assist. And I point that out in that you have indeed formed a subcommittee. Should you decide that you want to get together and hear from that subcommittee, if you let us know in advance, and we can try to support you for that meeting, we can do that. So that's all I have.
So what I would put out to my subcommittee members is, you know, for everyone that's coming in and that, I would see if we could try and fit that in the 29th and 30th January thing, meeting in 18. But if there's something so compelling that, you know, no, Carrie, we strongly recommend we bring the committee in, then we'll go from there. But I would put my guidance out that let's try and fit it in the 29th and 30th. Yes, Mr. Jeffries.
How often does the Texas Veterans Commission meet so that if that subcommittee did form a recommendation, when could it be presented to the commission?
That's a great question. They meet 4 times, a quarterly meeting every year. So if you put together a recommendation, say you decide at that January meeting that you want to recommend something, I don't know when their quarterly meeting would be that quarter, but it's usually somewhere around the beginning of February. It could be presented to them in February. More than likely, they'll listen, but they wouldn't come to a decision until May, that meeting.
So it could change the 2019 cycle?
It could change, it could be in effect for the 2019-2020 cycle, yes. That's, and it seems pretty far out there, but that's really how far out in advance we have to work. Yeah, that's a great question.
So then effectively what this means is it will, whatever the subcommittee comes up with and we vote on, it will not affect this next cycle of grants. It would be the year after grants, correct?
It would be very difficult to affect this next cycle. You would pretty much have to get the commission to agree to have an additional meeting to discuss it. Because it would be very tough to meet and put a recommendation together before this May meeting and then have them approve it and approve the RFAs at their August meeting. You're talking a timeline that I've just not seen move that fast.
Could this committee meet prior to the January meeting in order to accomplish getting any recommended changes in time?
Oh, absolutely, that we can have another meeting. That's why I laid out there that the subcommittee, if there's a compelling reason and you've come up with whatever, yeah, certainly could call them. Yes, Mr. Wright?
Madam Chairwoman, wanted to ask, and I think I know the answer to this, I don't think we can meet electronically, so if we were to have another meeting, it has to be in person, correct?
The subcommittee can meet electronically.
But I'm talking about this
That's not an open, but this committee has to be in an open public meeting. And as of right now, we don't have a capability for telemeeting portions. We've got it, we're working towards that capability. The video part is a step in that direction.
All right then, so yes, Mr. Hackett?
I would just like to say I appreciate all the work that all the committee members did for this process, because it is not easy. And I appreciate what the staff does, the amount of time that they have spent with this. I know you said it earlier, but I think they need to hear it again, that we really do appreciate what they do, and they have really helped us out a lot.
Okay, so we're done with the conversation on the subcommittee, and that we'll go ahead and mark our calendars right now for 29, 30 January of 18. Unless there's a compelling reason that we would meet together as a committee, then you'll be hearing from me and Mr. Cato on any subcommittee recommendations. Otherwise, my expectation is we'll fit you in the agenda 29, 30 January. Did you have anything else, Mr. Cato, before? Okay, so now what I'd like to do is move on to number 11, the adjournment. I now call on each committee member for closing comments, starting with Mr. Jeffers.
As always, I get to go first, so I'm the first one to really thank the staff for this really excellent work. I know these become part of the record. The people out here can't see all the hard work or how important it is to us, but I hope whoever spent the hours putting this together understands that we really do look at it. It was very useful. Today is a great example of why their hard work makes our job so much easier, and I think makes it better for us to shape a better recommendation overall. So thank everybody for driving down here, fighting hostile traffic. It's always good to see everyone and how much we all care about what we do and what a collegial way we're able to get it done. But I really appreciate the FVA staff and everybody else's patience. Thanks.
Mr. O'Reilly?
I would just add my voice to the appreciation of the staff. They've just done an extraordinary job, and every phase that we go through, it gets better and better and better. So we sincerely appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Wright?
Very much a thank you to the staff. Thank you to all the organizations that submitted grants. Even if you were not approved, please do not let that discourage you from submitting in the future. And I don't know if you were going to do it, but I was going to give a shout out to your much better half who's in the room. Welcome, sir.
Mr. Hatfield?
I've already said enough.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Samonte?
Just thank you to the staff. You guys do great. And Mr. Cato, thank you for your leadership. And that's it.
All right, Mr. Archer?
And I'll ditto. Thank you. It's an honor to be here to support the veterans of Texas.
Mr. Ball?
Way too many thank yous. I'm not going to thank them because the staff still needs to keep pushing hard. Because you've got a dead weight right here in charge. So, but no, thank you guys.
Okay, so to the public out there and to the people that wrote these grant applications, you know, that's a lot of work. Okay? That's also a lot of work to come on up here. And it does not, I'm not remiss to know that your love of veterans, love of the state of Texas, and love of country put your desire here to come here. So I thank you for the public that is left here. TVV staff, wow. Irv, you know what I think of you. Charlie, Ms. Zavala, all of you ladies and gentlemen, you know, to put all of this stuff together is just work. You know, I'm learning that more with my job, some of the things I'm doing right now. So I have an appreciation, and Mr. Cato, every time you pick up the phone and help me out with what I'm reading. My colleagues, you know what? Your time, your effort. It's a lot of hours on you too, and driving up here and things like that. And it doesn't escape me that we all have significant others at the house. And, you know, life's hit us all, but yet our commitment to veterans in the state of Texas and love of country, you know, some life situations are a little more strenuous, but yet we get here and we do that time. So, Fred, thank you. And finally, you know, and I don't mean this as, you know, haha, but really happy holidays coming up. We're going to miss Easter, the 4th of July, Memorial Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's.
Hey, you
So-
left out Halloween.
Oh, Halloween. So, you know, sincerely, you know, I don't get to, you know, get that time out to you all, but, you know, I want to sincerely wish you the rest of the holidays coming up and have a great time with your family and that, and be careful going home tonight, or today. Otherwise, if there are no other comments, I'd like to thank you for your hard work and entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I so moved.
Okay, Mr. Heffett, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right,
Archer.
seconded by Mr. Archer. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, we have 8 yeas. All opposed? 0. Motion passes with 8 yeas and 0 nays.